or RCMP had gotten to me. You would be wrong. My fat fingers kept on screwing up on the window that I wanted to bring up. It was Ty the Fisher. I want to start with a laugh for today's show. Ladies and gentlemen, Ty the Fish is hilarious.
Hi, guys. Comedian actor Tyler Fisher here, and I just made the decision. I am moving back to New York City. I've been in Texas for a year, and I have to be there for Mom Donnie. I just do. I know a lot of people will be surprised by this, but like, dude, I'm so sick of living in Texas where I don't even pay state income tax. Think about that. So I have to like find things to do with my money. Like this is my third coffee of the day. I'm going to buy a paddleboard. I'm hiking, new shoes. And it's like, I'm just done with it. I have to give up 52% of my income. I have a car, which is like, it's so toxic cis white male of me. You know what I mean? And they're charging money to take buses here, charging money. So what do homeless people do if they want to go on there and sleep and piss and shit and stab somebody? They have to go and fundraise to get on a bus? Like, what the fuck? So I'm just going to get back there and get back to the Gays for Palestine protests.
Even the bikers aren't assholes.
And like, nobody has assaulted me today. I'm sitting here, literally, I got cash hanging out of my pockets. No one's called me a racist, toxic, cis white male. What am I doing? America's to be abused and live in a tiny studio apartment and welcome illegal migrants into your space. I'm going to have probably 10 living with me, sharing a bed, because I care. And my dating life here is amazing. Like, women, they like when I take charge. They like when I lead. They're nice. They're feminine. Barf, gag me.
I prefer a woman with a shaved head, 8 cats, who hates men, the patriarchy, but still wants me to pay the bill.
And what if
Okay, we'll stop there because I don't want to steal the entire thing. Everybody must go watch the rest of this. Share it around because Tyler Fisher is bona fide hilarious, bona fide insightful, and there's the link one more time. Seriously, who voted for the communists, says Florida girl over in ComeyTube. Funny thing of the other video I was going to start the show with was Kathy Hochul apparently shutting down Mom Donnie's plan to offer free public transit. Here, listen to this.
I cannot set forth a plan right now that takes money out of a system that relies on the fares of the buses and the subways. But can we find a path to make it more affordable for people who need help? Of course we can. And
what about childcare, though?
Childcare, I already committed to. So we'll be on a path to get there because I'm committed to this as mom governor. I get it. But also to do it statewide right now, it's about $15 billion, the entire amount of my reserves.
So that's a hard no, Mom Donnie. At least we'll see how it goes. What's fantastic, and I think the broader context of that is Kathy Hochul basically saying, "Look, it's cheap, but it can't be free because the fares fund the system." Now, I'm not a heartless bastard. I can understand the argument for transit to be free. Could you imagine what would happen if public transit were free in New York City? I mean, the issue is, at the very least, the minimal cost of riding the transit. And I say like minimal, I appreciate it. Generally speaking, the people taking public transit are not wealthy people to begin with. And there's no judgment. It's just a reality. People who have the means will certainly take an Uber. They'll certainly take their own car, maybe not in downtown New York. But the people who are taking the bus, generally speaking, I guess there's this proportion that are doing it for the convenience because it goes everywhere. But they're generally people, not with ample resources. So even if it's $3 away, I mean, that's still pretty damn expensive if you're doing that twice a day, 5 days a week to get to work. I could be convinced, for the argument that it would have to be free. But if it were free and there were no even a $3 barrier, knowing that you don't have cops in those systems, you don't have anybody enforcing the law when people are literally getting set on fire on the subways, and they had to pay $3 to set the person on fire in the first place, $3 to stab somebody, it would be a cesspool of abject disaster in the subway system. Transit ambassadors, Zohan Mamdani. First of all, someone's got to pay them. And second of all, that will not solve the problems in the New York subway system. So New York is already waking up to a man with a charismatic smile he's got the good lively eyes, who may have not bitten off more than he could chew, but promised a little more than he can deliver. And maybe not fully appreciating the power structure. I'm not exactly sure how it works either, but not appreciating the power structure in New York to understand that, you got to double check things before you promise the moon. they'll find a place. Maybe tax people a little more. But that's it. All right. Now, before we get into today's show, I do want to thank our sponsor. Now, it's going to be, there's a different realm. People want to make money. They want to preserve money. And you want to make sure that the amount that you're getting from whatever job you have and that you're setting aside so that you can save money, that it doesn't just deflate into nothing. And it's a real problem. And there's a real solution to it. And the solution, to the extent that one is fortunate enough to have monies to invest, is gold from Gold Safe Exchange. Peeps, central banks, hedge funds, even politicians, the very same ones who smile on camera, tell you that they're going to give you everything for free while running up record high debt. They're doing the same thing right now, quickly moving out of the dollar and into gold and silver. Who's left holding the bag when the dollar keeps slipping? You. Everyday Americans, families who work hard, who save responsibly, and then you just see your savings lose purchasing power just by virtue of it existing in a bank account. The elites know better. They know hard assets, gold and silver, are the lifeboats when the dollar takes on water. That's why they're loading up. And here's the truth. You don't need to be left behind. You can do what they're doing and protect yourself too. Gold Safe Exchange, that's where they come in. They make it simple and secure to move part of your savings into real physical metals you can hold. We're going to see if they take me up on my offer one day to make a Viva Fry designed 1 ounce gold something. Easy for hiding and easy for transportation. They have absolute transparency at Gold Safe Exchange, an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau, a price match guarantee, so you always know you're getting the best deal. The elites have already made their move. By the way, I just want to show you something here. You'll see what they offer. There, look at that. Look at that. Beautiful locks of hair. Oh my goodness. Yeah. I got lost here. They've made their move. Don't let your worthless paper become even more worthless. Take control, protect your savings, protect your future. Click on the link below, mention Viva to get a special offer where the team over at Gold Safe Exchange will provide you with an additional $1,500 in free gold and silver with a qualifying purchase. The link is in the description, people. And it's if you have money in a bank and you're looking to invest it and buy assets that are going to appreciate with the depreciation of the dollar, gold is the way to do it. Get a haircut already, Medusa? I say no to you, sir. Now, before Barnes gets in here, and I wanted to do this without Barnes, because I mean, there's two things that are going to happen, and I don't like doing it. I'm telling you now, I'm gonna at least probably cry, and I'm telling you now, I'm gonna swear. I'm also telling you now that I'm gonna show you videos that you don't want to see. They're not overtly horrific in the graphicness of what I'm going to show you. I'm talking about the ostrich farm up in Canada. The most horrifying scenes from movies are not what they call the torture porn that you get in These Hills Have Eyes or Human Centipede or all of these other shit movies. The most truly traumatizing things that linger with you forever are when they don't show you everything, when they show you just enough so that your imagination, which is more powerful than any video and film you can see, fills in the blanks. I was just looking through my timeline to see when I started talking about this story, when I started following the story. I thought it was around April when they went to the Federal Court of Appeal. I discovered, I don't know how I came about finding out about this case in January. I think it might have been late December 2024, immediately after the cull order was issued. I've been following this story, and I have gotten probably more emotionally invested than, I'm not a reporter. I'm not a journalist. I've gotten emotionally invested. I know Katie Passity from the farm. I know everybody there. I know her lawyer. I know the parties involved. When this first started, it was a hypothetical. It was going through the court system when they got that cull order from the Canadian Food Inspection Agency to slaughter their 300. It was at that time 397 ostriches. And when I had Katie on the first time, I remember saying it jokingly. Like, how are you expected to kill an ostrich? How are you expected to kill 397 ostriches? How did they ever expect, even if they never challenged the order, how did they expect the farm to slaughter 397, sometimes 3 to 350 pound animals? And I said, what do they expect you to do? Shotgun blast them to the face? Do they expect you to inject them go take them to a vet and inject them? Do they expect you to decapitate them? Where like a chicken without its head can run around for upwards of 30 seconds, a 300-pound monstrous, beautiful beast. And I said it like at the beginning, I was like, how are they even expected to do it? This has gone through January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November. This has gone through 11 months of the court system. And on Thursday of last week, they actually slaughtered all of the ostriches. And I say that they is the Canadian Food Inspection Agency and those fucking Gestapo agents who work for the RCMP. They cordoned off the farm, as you've all known. They've had a 40-plus day standoff. And no matter how cynical you get, it's hard to keep up. And you can check, it's in my, that's my Twitter profile expression. No matter how cynical you get, it's hard to keep up. And I'm sitting here like the naive nincompoop who sincerely believed this story would have had a happy ending from day one. I swear to you, I thought it was going to have a happy ending, and I don't know why I thought that. And so I've been following this story for 11 months, 10 months, had Katie on many times, followed this thing through. And even when the occupation began over 40 days ago, and the Canadian Food Inspection Agency with their Gestapo agents, armed terrorist branch of the Canadian government, took control of that farm, I said, there's going to be a happy ending to this. They're not going to kill these ostriches. And they were setting up their kill pen for the last 40 days. And like horny teenagers just waiting to lose their virginity for the first time. The second the Supreme Court said the appeal is dismissed, like horny teenagers looking for the lay, they ran into that pen, they corralled those ostriches in, and they systematically murdered however many are left over the course of 10 horrifying hours. In the dead of the night, they fired something like 900 to 1,000 rounds. Snipers who weren't wearing hazmat suits slaughtered all of the ostriches, one by one by one. Bullets ringing out in the night. And I'm going to show you some video because you need to see it. If it's going to hurt your heart, because if it doesn't hurt your heart, you don't have one. This is where you can hear the owners. And there's dumb fucks out there, and I can't help you with your dumb fuckery. Will people kill animals to eat them? Yeah, if this was a farm where they were eating them, A, first of all, you still don't do animals the way they did these animals. And B, it's a different nature. And C, even then, you would show some respect to the animal that you're killing for the purposes of consumption. This was a slaughter for the orgiastic glee of the kill. And I have my underlying theory, which I'll tell you in a second. This is going to be upsetting to listen to, but you're going to listen to it and you don't put it on mute.
They don't have the right. They had lights on us for a fucking month, and now they're going to hide in the dark while they're massacring my beautiful babies, healthy babies, and they're suffering. They are breaking the Animal Health Act. They are suffering. They don't die in one shot unless you hit them in the head. They're killing my babies slowly.
This is the owner of the farm. They had a team of, they called them expert marksmen. I'll give you that. Expert marksmen that took 1,000 shots to kill 300, however many ostriches are left, because I don't believe there were 300 ostriches left. They're sitting there, the family, listening to their animals being slaughtered, listening to gunshots ringing out in the night. Listen to this. This is Chris Dacey. He was on scene and he's done immeasurably valuable work to document this atrocity.
CFIA is massacring healthy ostriches, and the RCMP are standing here. Paramilitary operation, enabling the whole thing. They have drones in the air. They have multiple officers coming in. They have separated family members. They have separated supporters. They have been terrorizing people for 2 weeks. And now they're watching as a mass slaughter unfolds. The family is understandably upset. You can hear screaming in the distance as they massacre these animals that have been...
The screaming that people were hearing was, on the one hand, the family wailing in pain and suffering. And on the other hand, also the birds themselves. I think this. Hold on, I'll come to this one in a second. They slaughtered the animals. And Katie had to sit there with her family and listen to the gunshots ringing out of the night, and they couldn't get away from it. Yeah, let's play a little bit of this from Drea Humphrey. This is after the after. Attention, avian influenza. This was the purported reason for which they did all of this.
Well, not even that. Now they don't.
Oh, I'm sorry. This video, they're confiscating the eggs. Let me make sure I'm right about that. CFIA appears to be removing the antibody-rich eggs from the farm after they slaughtered the birds. Right? They haven't been sick in 11 months, damn near a year. It was to stamping out, because the birds, they might still be shedding. They might still be somehow contagious, even though they've been healthy for a year, and they haven't tested the birds that they slaughtered before they slaughtered them. Now they're taking the eggs out.
I think that the police are losing the trust. You mentioned Robert Peel's rules.
You think the police are losing the trust? I'm not making fun of Ezra. I'm just going to point out that they have lost the trust. I want to show you something. I mean, I don't think the RCMP like me very much. They are filthy fucking terrorists, and that's what I will call them for the rest of my life. Listen to what they've slaughtered the animals. They're still on site because they haven't, after all of this torture, left yet. They got to steal everything before they go. Listen to this.
Kevin, they're scared for their safety.
Sorry, I don't know what I just did there. Hold on, get this out of here. Sorry about that. This is after the slaughter, by the way.
We've talked about this, right? Like, I'm trying to let you know that you have an opportunity to be able to.
Sure. Thank you for letting us know we can remove our signs.
Yeah. I want you to
You
have an
asked me
opportunity.
a question. You said, "Do we have any correspondence back?" Yeah. No, they're scared for their safety, so we couldn't pray over our animals that we've had in our life for 35 years.
They've called the birds. They've removed the birds.
Yeah.
It's time for them to get the fuck out of here.
And that's what they're trying to do. And that's what they're giving
They're so
the
polite.
opportunity
Like,
to be able to.
you know, the Nazis, I'm sure, were very impolite when they were doing their atrocities.
I don't know what. I know your roles are to keep the peace. There is no peace. You have destroyed our family, and you were an accomplice to it. You guys are accomplices to it. And I don't know how many more families, it's lives you're going to ruin, and how many more animals you're going to be part of destroying. But I hope that this time changes your life forever. Forever. Because it's changed our life for fucking ever. Ever.
And where was victim services yesterday or the night?
They promised them victim services as they murder their animals.
Failure of the RCMP that night. You guys were more concerned about stopping people from driving up the goddamn road to sleep in the tent. Left them on the. I'm sorry, you're going to hear me? No, you're going to listen to me right now.
I am, but you're getting
No,
very close.
you're going to listen
very
to
close.
me right now. I'll step back and you're going to listen to me. Those people stood on the side of the freaking highway because you said it was too unsafe to let them in here. And you made them sit there and listen to 900 rounds of gunshots. Listen to me. Listen to these words.
I know. These are animals. Oddly enough, the animals are the ones doing the killing of the birds here. And you hear Katie sobbing in the background. They had to sit out there, were forced to listen to gunshots go off, 900 rounds to 1,000 rounds. And like Katie's mom said, the owner of the farm, they don't die after one shot. You want to know how you know they didn't die after one shot? First of all, I want to show you a little bit of the, it's such a health hazard that the snipers show up. What is that? Is that a GoPro on his head? Are those binoculars to get a good shot? Takes 3 shots to kill an ostrich. Such biohazards that nobody's wearing hazmat suits to do the slaughter. Such a biohazard that after the slaughter, they were casually spreading the hay that had the blood of these birds all over the place. I'm going to show you something. This is where it's going to get mildly graphic. It looks like some of the birds, by the accounts of Chris Dacey, who was on site, birds were decapitated. It sounds like and seems like they went in the morning after however many hours of firing 1,000 rounds. And I don't know, I wasn't there, relying on what people are telling me, decapitating, I guess, the birds that were not yet fully dead, that had been maybe suffering throughout the night. This is the aftermath. Just look at that for 1 second. This is a fucking atrocity. Everyone involved in this, everyone who had a hand in it, through act or omission, and I'm looking at you, Pierre Poilievre, through the omission part, has reserved themselves a special seat in hell. Those are ostriches that were picked off one by one. Do you know what happens when you shoot an ostrich and it doesn't die? It goes fucking crazy. Runs into the bales of hay, runs into other ostriches. The other ones are sitting there like victims held by a terrorist who's killing one hostage after another, listening to the guns go off, panicking. This is after 40 plus days of having been abused and neglected by the CFIA. Hell is where they have saved themselves a seat. Oh, I just have to go through my feed. My feed has been like, this for the last 3 days. Now they're actually running ads. And you think that they would be stupid enough to do this by accident? Thinking about a police career or just in giving back to the community. Come join us for a pop with a cop. To which I have to make the absolutely funny joke. It's actually quite fascinating. After a week that can only be described as the worst PR in RCMP history they'll ever have, they've revealed their heartless criminal terrorist organization, and now they're running recruitment posts. Who the hell would join the RCMP after what they just did last week? I'll tell you who. Psychopaths, sociopaths, and people who want to be able to shoot things. But that's not that. That's not all yet. I'm going to troll the RCMP, and I implore and encourage everyone to do it. Say peacefully. It's Twitter. It's tough to do things not peacefully on Twitter. Don't make threats. Don't do anything illegal, because they will try to make an example of, even if they have to fabricate their own example of these right-wingers who are now threatening people. Don't threaten anybody. Doesn't do anything good. But I will troll until they block me or arrest me, or both. I encourage everyone to respond to every single post from the RCMP terrorist organization with a picture of the ostriches missing a head. An ostrich that was beheaded under the purported keeping the peace. Just ask them why the ostrich is missing a head. Did they cut it off? Or did they allow their fellow CFIA agents to do it? Let me show you this. This is where it might get a little graphic. Now, some people are saying, Viva, that's not a decapitated ostrich. That's an anus of an ostrich. Look over here, by the way. That wound on the upper part of the thigh is nothing that happens naturally. There's two things. I can appreciate I've seen ostriches. That's not what an ostrich anus looks like. Maybe when it's delivering an egg. That doesn't protrude 8 inches off the back. Maybe that's an anus. If that's an anus, it's a severely prolapsed anus. That's when they come out of the muscle around the. You know what does that? Physical pain and torture. Why is that ostrich missing a head? You know who hasn't responded? The terrorist organization that is the RCMP. And some of you might be saying, Viva, you're being a little rough on the RCMP. Fuck them. I am not. That is the same terrorist organization that during the Ottawa trucker protest beat the shit out of veterans. Arrested veterans. I think his name was Chris Dealing. I forget his last name. A veteran, a decorated veteran. I will say assaulted him when they arrested him. He lost his medal. They cuff him. His body was blown up in Iraq or Afghanistan. I forget exactly where he served, but he was grievously injured while his 3 other brothers and sisters died. They beat him up, arrest him, cuff him, have him in the freezing cold with arms tied behind his back for hours. Then they take him outside of Ottawa and release him. Like the trash that they thought he was. This is the same RCMP. Set aside the whole Nova Scotia shooting thing, which is a rabbit hole that might require its own hush-hush. This is the same RCMP that joked in private text messages, making fun of the fact that people could get injured, or they would injure the horse by bringing it to the protest. These people are demons. And they actually went in and they actually slaughtered all 300, whatever were left of those ostriches. And Katie had to sit there and listen to her life be ripped away from her. I'd say, like, I've said it to a few people. When I was on the phone with Katie while the shots are ringing out and she is sobbing. She's a woman who's losing air. She is beside herself, living a nightmare. And it was like, I'm sitting there talking. There's nothing you can say to someone like this. It's like, you may think they're just ostriches. Imagine someone is killing your dog and you hear your dog wailing as they torture it. You're stuck behind a door and you hear someone torturing your dog. Oh, there people can relate because, she's sitting there listening to savages torture her animals. Her entire life, these have been in their family for 35 years, ripped away from them. It's like the last scene out of Braveheart. We're in the last scene of Braveheart when they're torturing William Wallace, and you want to believe it's going to have a happy ending. And say, all right, they're only tying him up. Look, they've got guys in the audience. They have his friends are in the crowd. They're going to save him. Surely they're going to save him. Then they start torturing him. Like, no, they still have time to save him. And then when they start disemboweling him in the movie, you realize, well, that's it. His story's over now. Nothing can repair this irreparable harm that they've done. He's going to die. And then he, has his visions of seeing his wife. They did the irreparable. They did the irreversible. And Katie and her family had to sit there for hours listening to them do this. Absolute fucking monsters. And if you're not outraged by this, you are part of the problem. I have to argue with people on the internet. Oh, they didn't report the infected birds back in December. You want to know the facts of this case? It's even more shocking. The ostriches get allegedly infected in late December, and then an apparent whistleblower, an anonymous tip comes in before they even knew what the hell was going on with the birds. That's the official narrative. Tips off the CFIA. Then the CFIA comes in and ruins their fucking life. You want to know my theory? This has been Big Pharma funded. This has been Big Pharma induced. There's a reason why Pierre Poilievre couldn't say anything to this. And I floated this idea a while back. This was a Big Pharma heist, is my personal theory and my personal opinion. It was a Big Pharma heist because they wanted those birds and whatever antibodies those birds had for having survived the H5N1. For the last 40 days, the reason why the number's been dwindling is because they've been smuggling off ostriches in the night. Alive or dead, I don't know. The word on the ground is that when this started, there was something like 3 or 2 hens to each rooster. And by the end of it, it was even parity or maybe more roosters to hens, which was not the proportions to begin with. And the idea being that the females are worth a little bit more in terms of science, reproduction. This was Big Pharma. They wanted whatever those ostriches had. They have their claws in a fucking corrupt liberal government building a Moderna jibby-jab facility outside of Montreal. And that is why Pierre Poilievre didn't say a damn thing, because he couldn't say a damn thing, because his corrupt party and him himself are probably in on this. And so they went in for the last month. They smuggled off as many ostriches as they needed. Then they go through with the kill. They're stealing the eggs, even though that has nothing to do with the avian flu. And liberal Canadians are sitting there ratifying the slaughter, justifying the slaughter. Okay, there's a lot of chat. Barnes is going to come in a second. I'm going to... It's abject horror, and everyone should be outraged. And I don't wish ill on people, and I'm struggling with a lot of... I'm struggling with what I'm feeling, because I'm feeling a rage where I have thoughts that I say, my goodness, these people deserve something. They deserve hell on this earth. And the hell on earth that they deserve is a long, miserable fucking life. When they walk around the streets, Paul McKinnon, president of the CFIA, you should never be welcome among civilized men again. These RCMP officers should be riddled with guilt. My only problem is the ones who killed those ostriches, they were looking for an excuse to kill. They got to test their marksmanship. Hey, Bob, let's see if we can shoot this one's head off. Oh, no, what's that? We only caught it in the upper thigh and it's running around now like crazy. I am struggling with feelings of immense hatred and immense seething anger. And I know it's not good. But like I said on Twitter, I'll end it here and then we're going to get on with the show. Don't do anything stupid. They want you to do something stupid. This was so brazen, so atrocious, so egregious. They were trying to provoke a violent response from people whose impulse control is slightly less than mine. They were trying to provoke, and they are still trying to provoke a violent response. You want to know how I know they're trying to provoke a violent response? Listen to this bitch of a liaison officer at the RCMP. Listen to this is after the slaughter. Chris Dacey documenting. Listen to this woman trying to provoke a response from Chris. This is before or after, I'm not sure, when he got threatened by the RCMP because his reporting was allegedly doxing the cops, because they want to be able to murder your animals in the dead of night without any accountability and without any transparency. Listen to this world-class POS.
How are you doing today?
How you doing today?
I'm trying to listen to this. I'll talk to you after. I know who that is, and I'm listening to this, and I'm filming it.
Okay.
I'll talk to you after.
Okay.
Okay, stop talking over my mic, please.
You just need to step back.
I am well back from your line.
Step back.
Okay. Well,
I'm not crossing the line.
I would like to cross the line.
You go ahead.
You would like to cross the line. You have 30 fucking yards of line to cross, you evil woman. You've got 30 yards on that road to cross. No, I went across right in your face with my ugly, pointy, nasty face. I went across right here, and so help me God, if your shoulder touches mine, you're going to jail for assault, little man.
Cross whatever line you want. I won't do that.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate
Look at that. Now she's following him.
Can you please stop following me?
Well, we're just wondering what's going on here.
You know what's going on here? You rapacious demon. You just destroyed multiple people's lives. You just traumatized dozens, if not hundreds of people who were there. You just killed life. We're just trying to figure out what's going on here, eh? Oh, if you don't know, then you should be fired. And if you do know, you should be fired. Whoever you are, may you live a long, healthy life. And may when you're 80 years old, you be a lonely old lady. May you reflect on what you did here.
Get away from me. I don't want to talk to you.
Well, I think you just need to give your officer some space.
I think that they're on their side and I'm on my side. And I think
that's what the perimeter is for.
I think you need to give me some space now.
I appreciate
This is
that.
not a consensual conversation. Please back off.
Well, I think what we are
I
just
think
trying
you
to
need
have
to
is
back
a
off.
professional conversation.
You're not
Well, trying
at
to be
all.
professional.
You're coming at me. These guys were the aggressors.
But nobody's that annoying by accident. Nobody is that repulsive by accident. Here, go show that tweet. That is by design. That is to provoke a response from Daisy. Just nudge a shoulder. They would have arrested him for assault. They are a criminal organization. RCMP, the C stands for criminals. Royal criminals. Mother puckers is what they are. That's it. That's the ostrich news. Robert, sorry, I went on for way too long. When you want to hop in here, I'll see what we got in terms of going to fall behind. And Razorfist has apparently talked to people in the Trump admin about the state electoral college. We're going to get to all of this. We got forced name changes. It is unreasonable to me to blame my Eastern Snow Mexican brethren for the spread of communism into the north. Is it unreasonable? Gray 101 says, I am paying you to please not show the ostrich. I didn't know it was just shots and I didn't have it lined up. I'll get to the rest of these afterwards. Robert, sir, how goes the battle?
Good.
You look dapper, sir.
Yeah. We got a big week. I mean, the docket is full once again. We have the January 6th conspiracy that is being outed by Steve Baker and I guess they call themselves the Suspendables.
No, the Expendables. Was it the Suspendables or the Expendables? Oh,
I think it's the Suspendables. The Expendables is the movie, I think.
Fine.
The Suspendables, the former FBI whistleblowers, as to who the real pipe bomber is. And that raises some real questions about a range of things, including the current administration in terms of the FBI and the Justice Department. We've got the Supreme Court trumps tariffs. The oral argument was held this past week. There's some predictability there. We've got there was a brief ruling on the shutdown on the SNAP case that may all get mooted by a deal that appears to be impending between Democrats and Republicans to reopen the government. We've got gender passport issues that relate to the whole pronoun thing, in which not only do you have a Supreme Court decision, had a California Supreme Court decision, and had a Sixth Circuit en banc decision, and they all went in different directions.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's an attempt to sort of mandate the trans agenda through speech code controls. Trump, a big win on the hush money case before the Second Circuit Court of Appeals. That was something we had argued all the way back. It's interesting to finally start seeing some positive movement in that direction. We've got a streamer lawsuit. Osmond Gold, I think that's how you pronounce his name. All these kids, I don't know him a lot, but other people do. He was named in the suit. What's happening there? Is it defamation? Is it all a big scheme to steal a business? We'll see. We've got federal judges who claim the power of the purse in three different cases: the SNAP case, but also sanctuary cities and migrant shelter cases. We've got the D.C. jury nullification joining in with now grand jury nullification, now joining in with potential judicial nullification in the Comey case that judge is already previewing. The Arizona election audit little case went forward. The Ben Shuf case, we filed our big brief in that case this week as well. We've got a teacher who was shot. People may have forgot about this by the 6-year-old, awarded $10 million at trial because of the negligence of the school. We've got Boeing buying its way out of its trouble. after committing fraud that led to crashes. And big tech is going to have to go to trial on causing people's mental health problems, including suicide. So packed docket tonight.
No, it's good. We're going to get on here. I would just want to get to one here in our chat. It says, Viva, I'm behind on the ostriches, but Maid has killed 90,000. I know I've covered it extensively, and I will continue covering it. I'd like you to picture. The Maids is Nazi level eugenics in Canada. I've covered that at length, but we'll continue to because it's only going to get worse. Robert, let's do the pipe bomber story, which is wild. That they apparently, I want to make sure to explain this. Apparently, they know who the pipe bomber is. It's a woman who's an employee. Who has now, if I'm not mistaken, been bumped up to the CIA or is involved in the CIA.
Well, maybe was always at the CIA.
Well, and allegedly, now, so the way they've determined this, Steve Baker, and I don't want to not give credit to the other I think there was a co-author. Steve Baker put out a piece. It's a bombshell. The only question is whether or not it's true, because the way they've identified this asset, CIA asset, who allegedly planted the bomb, was based on what they call a gait analysis. Gait, like the way you walk, GAIT. And they did a gait analysis. You'll tell me if I'm missing any of the other evidence that they used to identify her. And it's either an FBI agent at the time or a CIA asset at the time who planted these pipe bombs. And they allegedly, I think, knew of this and did not disclose it, and have not disclosed it even under the new FBI, which is under Cash Patel and Bongino. And then the question becomes, if this is true, why in the name of sweet holy hell would the current FBI not be blowing the lid off of this? Or are they still investigating and they didn't want to rat out that they knew who it was, and Steve Baker et al. Have now blown the cover and let the cat out of the bag? Tell me if I missed any key details as to who the individual was. I know that they were she was known to everybody and was deliberately not investigated. But if this turns out to be a CIA asset or an FBI asset, and we've called this a Fed surrection from the beginning, why would the current administration not be interested in blowing this up and blowing this out of the water?
No doubt about it. Because, for those that may not recall, there was someone who planted purported pipe bombs at the Democratic National Committee and other places that was used to, in my opinion, exaggerate the events of January 6th. The allegation is that the person who did it was a member of the Capitol Police at the time and now works for the Central Intelligence Agency. I haven't known a lot of progress, traditional career paths, to go from the Capitol Police to the CIA. Unless, of course, maybe you're already working at the CIA and infiltrated the Capitol Police. But either way, the same individual that has now been identified by Steve Baker's investigative work is also one of the lead witnesses against the January 6th defendants as to what happened at the Capitol that day. Not only that, the same person was identified as one of the lead instigators of how the crowd lost control, which was she was firing pepper balls into the crowd.
I just want to stop you. She looks like she's changed quite a bit. The jaw is there and the jaw is up there. So unless this is not the same person, it does appear that this was a woman who now apparently set up the pipe bombs, antagonized the crowd with pepper spray balls in a manner that Steve Baker had also reported. Experts say was potentially lethal. When you're firing rubber bullets at people's heads, that's potentially lethal. Sorry, I cut you off there. Okay.
No, exactly. So in other words, this person exposes. We already know there were hundreds of undercover informants, infiltrators, and instigators that were on some form of federal government payroll, directly or indirectly, from a range of other reports, but that information, they've still suppressed the details of who those people are. But you add that to everything that took place. Remember, there was unusual security lapses that day, people were being directed to places other than where the actual rally was supposed to occur. So they basically funneled them into this place where they ended up being sort of locked in, and then started firing pepper balls at them. And then when some of them responded, they created sort of a riotous atmosphere. They then got to say, "See, look, insurrection, everybody." And it appears a key member of Capitol Police was the key infiltrator, instigator the entire time. And this person has been identified. Are you going to be surprised if she bats the other way? You know what I mean?
Definitely not if I'm playing on stereotypes, definitely not by the lower right. I don't know what sport she's playing. That might reduce the guessing a little bit more. Okay, I'm joking, but not joking.
No doubt about it. I mean, and apparently, according to Kyle Seraphin and others, there was evidentiary leads from the get-go that then got suddenly shut down on all of this. And so on their own, the Steve Baker and others, some of these suspendables, other people, did some forensic evidence matchups and identified who this person is, and that there was already leads that this was who it was all the way back at the beginning, and it just all got shut down.
Well, now back in the beginning, under Biden's admin or Biden's FBI, that makes sense. I mean, you're gonna have to put forward a theory as to why the current admin would not have blown the lid off this.
It raises serious questions. What exactly is going on? Is it the fact this person is under CIA Director Ratcliffe? This is a guy who lied to the president to get us to bomb Iran by laundering bogus intel from Mossad, lied to the president to extend the conflict in Gaza by lying to the president about what Hamas's negotiation position was. This is a guy, John Ratcliffe, who lied to the president to get him to say all kinds of things that look really dumb in retrospect. Some of us saw it as dumb at the time, about what's happening in Ukraine, where Ukraine continues to just bleed out and lose over and over and over and over again on the battlefield. And where did the false intel that all the casualties were Russian and so few of them were Ukrainian? Ratcliffe. So Ratcliffe is part of this deep state cabal that he masqueraded as MAGA in order to usurp control and influence. And whatever's happened, they used Epstein to completely neuter the Justice Department, neuter deep state inquiries and investigations, neuter Kash Patel. Some people call him counterfeit cash these days. To neuter Dan Bongino in ways that this will be humiliating if it comes out to be true. Why? I mean, just humiliating. It will make Bongino look like a joke. And, if Bongino has an iota of pride left, he's got to make sure something happens here.
Well,
and if it doesn't happen, step down and resign if you're this useless.
Well, okay, so there's two possibilities. It's let's say the easiest one is it's not true, it's incorrect. Okay, fine. I don't know who can sue for, there could be lawsuits for defamation, I would presume, but set that aside. The easiest explanation is it's not true and they know it, so they don't need to, give it any heed. If it's true, then the question is going to be, are they currently working on it? Or, like what I'm understanding from what you're saying, and it's the darkest of the cynical theories, is that the cover-up, which involved other people now, is so deep that they can't reveal it without discrediting key players in the Trump administration and the Trump administration itself.
Yeah, it's same as Epstein, right? I mean, it's Epstein getting replayed over and over and over and over again in multiple contexts. You have Tulsi Gabbard making speeches about how we're not going to do regime change, while Ratcliffe and Rubio and Bessent are inside the White House trying to get the president to do regime change in Venezuela. So, I mean, it's the degree of sabotage has so derailed the Trump presidency and public perception that the election last Tuesday was a wipeout. And right now they're on pace to get utterly wiped out in a year from now. And then all we're going to get is investigations and impeachments. That's the path they're on. That's the path these people have put them on. Soros, Scotty Bessent, Narco, Marco Rubio, the always been a neocon, Swampy Susie Wiles. I mean, I'll give another example. Credit to the president for saying he's going to support this, but this has been in the works for about 6 months. There's a group of us that had been proposing that the antitrust division use its power to go after the big ag monopolists who are jacking up so many food prices across the country. And to give you an idea, someone gave Trump false information that Walmart's Thanksgiving package was now really reduced, not realizing they changed what was in the package. The actual cost of turkey is up like 25%. There has been no massive price reduction. And people gaslit Trump, and that was leading Trump to gaslit other people in public statements that are backfiring on him. Mm-hmm. This is all part of a common pattern. This is part of this sort of old corporate fiefdom and deep state crowd that and Wall Street aligned individuals that have deep power in the White House and within the administration who've been hijacking the Trump administration now for 6 months in such a way that it was a disaster. I mean, it was not just like Democratic states; it was Republican areas within those states and other Republican.
Yeah,
areas.
I just saw a comment that said, losing in blue states is not a blowout. Well, first of all, Jay Jones, the murder supporter, got elected.
And won by 6 points. Not only that, the Republicans got wiped out in Pennsylvania. Republicans got wiped out in Georgia. Republicans got hammered in Texas. The effort to stop any recall effort got hammered in California in Republican areas. And it was all the same pattern. New MAGA, working class minorities and millennials, shifted back to being more Democratic than they were before 2016. If this pattern holds up, they will lose 30 to 40 seats in the House. They may lose the Senate. These seats, you're no longer competitive. Oh, Iowa will be competitive again. Ohio will be competitive again. If you don't wake up to this screaming warning signal that this election signified. And, J.D. Vance mostly gets it. Other people in the administration mostly get it. But there's a whole bunch of people who don't because their money depends on him not getting it. So as an example, the idea that we had been proposing, use the antitrust laws to break up the big ag cartels particularly in the cattle business, but in other space as well. Trump came out for it, thank goodness. Already there's an effort by bad faith actors, and I'm going to name one of them here. Mike Davis is a fraud and corporate whore. So Mike Davis is busy selling his power, selling his pitch. That's why he's lying on a daily basis. Lie. Remember he said there was a group of people working together to get Comey, and then they had to rush the indictment, which is now blowing up in other ways in the courtroom. He's just lying because he's lining his pockets by going to people to undermine antitrust investigations, undermine other cases. So he's just a complete fraud, phony, fake. He's decided to sell out. That's what he's decided to do. There's a bunch of these kind of people. So hopefully Trump realizes the problem, returns to putting voters first and donors second, or this problem is going to I can't say the word metastasize.
Metastasize.
Metastasize, that's it. It's going to metastasize like a cancer. And that's what this J6 case reveals. Here you had with Epstein, you had a huge gift to unravel the deep state that they completely screwed up and self-sabotaged. And now we're seeing it's part of a pattern. It's not isolated. Even John Solomon is finally saying Pam Bondi's not doing anything. Pam Bondi's not supposed to be, it's supposed to be doing things, and the progress is very, very slow.
Actually, reading some of the chats, and I'm seeing the meme of you blowing smoke out of your ears because of the rage. But the people sabotaging the Trump administration to discredit his key players in ways that are going to be difficult to come back from. Kash Patel, what's he doing over in Asia? Is he in Japan flying to South Korea?
He loves that private plane.
But what is he doing? He's the director of the FBI. Are they pushing him out because he's screwing things up? Or is he just gallivanting around and not doing his job?
That's what it appears to be. I mean, this is a guy who is highly critical of Christopher Wray using that plane. And I get there's some security protocols he can use to justify it. He himself said that shouldn't be happening. And as soon as he gets in there, remember he's going to turn the FBI into a deep state museum? Instead, he's often empowered a lot of the same corrupt actors. He's often rewarded them. He's often promoted them. People who are part of the horrendous Arctic Frost investigation, many of them got promoted. Still in those promoted positions. He still failed to take remedial action. We're not seeing any. He gets basic stuff wrong, like when he does the mob indictment, which really was just about poker games. The mob wasn't involved they tried to pretend they were involved in fixing the NBA. Those are two totally different scandals, two totally different things. He even gets basic facts in it wrong. Like people like Jeff Nadu who cover this. He's like, I don't think Patel even understands what the case is. I mean, and this is a guy who's not political. Jeff Nadu, covers the mob. He does, sports betting, all that. I mean, that's how embarrassing this is becoming. And if this is the case, I mean, credit to Steve Baker for outing it because it unravels the whole thing. Once if turns out accurate, and Baker's got a good reputation in history. Remember, Baker was targeted himself.
Yeah, no. Well, Baker has not. I don't know that he's been wrong about anything important. And this is a massive story where I'm sitting there saying, like, I know everybody's going to say I have a thing for Bonjit. I know him and I trust him and I like him. And this would be if he's not able to make the decisions, and if this is like he's being told to accept this, and he wants to see the Trump administration succeed, and he knows that if he resigns, like he threatened to do allegedly when Bondi was fucking up the Epstein stuff, well, that'll hurt the Trump administration. So whether or not he's taking his bruises to preserve the Trump administration to his own detriment, it would be a nice, way to rationalize what's going on. But at some point, if the FBI can't find the bomber, despite all of their promises, that'll be an indication of their ineptitude. And if they can't reveal it because of the corruption, that's going to be exponentially worse. And I don't know.
I mean, this all started when they came out and said Epstein killed himself, right? It wasn't just shutting down the Epstein file. Remember that nonsense, that hostage video where they're like, oh, no, Epstein definitely killed himself. Yeah, we know it. We saw it, definitely. And it's like, okay, sorry. Nobody really buys that. Nobody really believes that. And it was a sign that if they could crack them on that, if they could get them to cower on that, they could get them to cower on anything, cower on everything. And instead they've run around like chief sheriffs. Oh, look at this drug person I busted. Oh, look at this case I busted.
And the Operation Halloween, whatever the Halloween pumpkin case, the alleged terrorism plot in Michigan, which, to the extent I say good for, I mean, they deserve credit for that. Unless now I go back to what we talked about, these FBI setup jobs where they can say, look what we did. And it was a total entrapment. Whitmer, the other one there, the Sears building in Chicago, I think, was the other one where they literally entrapped a Muslim guy. And the judge, we talked about the case, said it was the worst case of entrapment they've ever seen. Set it up so they could say, look at the success we're having. We foiled a Halloween terror plot. Forget about Epstein. Forget about the pipe bomber. We're now damn near a year into the administration. The pipe bomber was one of the biggest things that we were waiting for delivery on, investigation into. And sources.
Unlocks the whole scam of the Fedsurrection. Once you know it's somebody from the government that put in the pipe bombs, then everything else you filter differently. You perceive differently. All of a sudden, J6 looks like the inside job that I first ever hush hush at vivabarneslaw.locals.com was why everything about this screamed false flag. Mm-hmm. People think false flag means the event didn't happen. It's that the wrong culprit is being identified, and that everything about this appeared to have been an inside scheme, an inside scam to derail the election challenge by creating a riotous atmosphere that was done deliberately, and to create this bogus narrative of a violent insurrection that never happened. And that this person was critical to that. And so the fact that it got shut down as soon as Biden got in and didn't get turned back up as soon as Trump got in is disturbing. And that maybe it started that way and at some point it stopped. I mean, a lot of these guys that were suspended, a lot of these FBI agents that were suspended have still not been reinstated. I represent Robin Gritz. They still haven't proposed anything to resolve the way which she was screwed over. Nothing. Not Jean Pirro. People, Jean Pirro's doing good. I've seen no signs that Jean Pirro's doing anything particularly productive or useful. I'm not seeing any signs from Kash Patel, any signs from Dan Bongino. The other person I was calling out this week, because I'm preparing in a couple of weeks to go down to the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals in the Brooke Jackson case. And, Brooke Jackson is the whistleblower who exposed the Pfizer fraud, mm-hmm. that this was a dangerous drug that was being disguised and lied and mismarketed as a vaccine for COVID-19, for the prevention of COVID-19. And it was lied right in the contract. They said, we're going to deliver a safe, effective vaccine for the prevention of COVID-19. And what they delivered was dangerous, ineffective, not a vaccine, didn't prevent COVID-19. More and more evidence of turbo cancers and other things associated with the COVID shot. And that was shut down by the Biden administration that said you can't second guess or challenge vaccines because that'd be too dangerous. So they demanded the case get dismissed. It's now on the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals. Pam Bondi is asserting the exact same language. And, she's been given now almost a year to fix this. She refuses. Why? Because pay-for-play Pam was paid hundreds of thousands of dollars by Pfizer the year before she went in. She not only refuses to join the Brooke Jackson case, she is covering up the criminal fraud of Pfizer all around the world because that's why she's pay for play Pam. She's a corporate whore. She is setting up Trump for real impeachments that will have fire behind the smoke because of how much corruption her office is daily engaged in. It is an embarrassment to the Trump administration. If he doesn't fix this, he's going to be in serious trouble. And it starts at the top of the DOJ, and it continues over, frankly, to the top of the FBI. Whatever's happening, this pipe bomber's case exposes that the Epstein cover-up was not a one-off.
Let me just show something here because I want to show the homework here. Why can't I see? Oh, it's because of this. No, not entire screen. Oh, wait, don't. I'll read it here. Pam Bondi was paid by Pfizer for providing legal services to the law firm Panza Maurer Maynard while she served as of counsel for the firm. Financial disclosures and reporting confirmed she received over $200,000 for these services in the last year. Bondi listed Pfizer as a client and disclosed this income in her 2025 Senate Judiciary filings, public disclosures, yada, yada. Payments and representation were clearly documented. $203,738 from Panza Moyer. She did not disclose the Pfizer relationship on earlier Senate questionnaires, raising additional security. Robert, let me get this out here. I can't see this. How in the hell could you expect anyone who was a Pfizer client to now turn on Pfizer? That would almost be, if she were their attorney, she knows secrets about Pfizer that she would have obtained in her counsel that she couldn't then act against Pfizer. It would be a conflict of interest if she were a lawyer acting against Pfizer now because of what she knows as a result of her solicitor-client privilege relationship with Pfizer.
Exactly. I mean, it's just getting more and more embarrassing that this is what's going on. That Patel and Bongino were put there to clean things up, and right now they're, whether deliberately or because of something else, they're covering it up instead. And if Bongino considers his reputation having any value, he's got to start reverse this, or he needs to resign and say publicly that why he was limited and constricted. Because this is just getting worse and worse and worse. There's all kinds of crazy rumors circulating now about the Epstein files and Trump's being in them and whatnot. And all this was created by their utter mishandling, their incompetent handling of the Epstein files. And some of that stuff is going to come out because the shutdown's going to end. The House is going to have to bring in the last member, the 218th member, who Mike Johnson's not swearing in. And then the Epstein file disclosures brought by Thomas Massie will pass. And at some point, will have to get disclosed. And so, this is just getting embarrassing, the failures in this aspect. And instead, they're trying to get him to, put boots on the ground in Nigeria now. And go to war with Venezuela. It's all stuff that undermines Trump's appeal to the people who elected him. It's time to put voters first and donors second. And that means real remedy. That means real relief. That means taking on the donors. There's no, this ridiculous 50-year mortgage idea. The giving the banksters more money is not the solution, Mr. President. The solution needs to be taking on the banksters. Taking on big ag, taking on big pharma, taking on big tech, taking on the military-industrial complex, taking on the deep state. And so unless he reverses quick and fast, he's in serious political jeopardy. But there's no question that this J6 case is one of the most explosive cases of government corruption in American history, if what Steve Baker reported turns out true.
Robert, did you, someone in the chat mentioned, and now Kash Patel is suing this guy named some libertarian jackass for $5 million. No, sorry, not Kash, his girlfriend. Did you read the defamation lawsuit? I posted about it last week.
Yeah, I think that, I get it to a degree, but the Kash getting on a plane to go wherever she's performing and then him making this big complaint about anybody raising complaints. Again, he himself set this up. Yeah. He said Christopher Wray should not be using the government planes to go on private vacations in his private jets. He mocked him for doing so. Now Kash Patel is doing exactly the same so he can see his girlfriend whenever she performs someplace.
Well, no, in this defamation lawsuit, she's suing, what's the guy's name? His name, he said something really stupid about me on Twitter, but I don't particularly care. For goodness sake, where is it? Oh yeah, his name is Sam Parker, based Sam Parker. Who neo-federalist American, he had something to do with the Libertarian Party at one point, but people calling her a honey trap and, an asset. We talked about it a bit with Carl Serafin's lawsuit. I don't think these things should be actionable. In this particular lawsuit, I certainly don't think the statements are sufficiently defamatory to be actionable. Like, she's a honey trap, and then he, affirms it. What was the other one here? What if the Cashville doesn't release the Epstein files? He's suggesting here, Alexis Wilkins, lots of content for Israel, PragerU. I mean, these are stupid things. I think the guy's an abject lunatic, but calling someone an asset or an agent or, a honeypot, I don't know how that's defamatory when you're dealing with public figures from other public figures when, they're public figures of the highest order. But, well, maybe I'll do a separate vlog on that sooner than later. Robert, any more or no more on the pipe bomber? Before we get into something, let me see if we cannot catch up a little bit on the backlog. I'm not going to do all of them. TT 1990. I really think Dan Tubes and O'Connor Tomlinson would make a great sidebar guest. I'm going to read all of these. I've got too many or not. Okay. Is it unreasonable to blame? I got that. Viva, Rekieta view on presidential power to tariffs seems to differ with Barnes. Can you ask Barnes if he saw Nick's view on his opinion? We're going to talk about that in a second. RCMP, radical communist motherfucking pricks. Not bad. Superboss Shaft. Viva, let's set up a Give Send Go to fund a new ranch in America. With some ostriches for the family. Trump can get them a permanent visa. It would be a great middle finger. I would love the idea. Prolapsed anus is on my things I never thought I'd hear Viva say bingo card. Forced name change. I think I actually said it before when I was talking about a weightlifter who prolapsed his anus when he was trying to do a heavy jerk. I saw the picture. It was not something you want to see. They're mad Trump is turning basketball court into a ballroom. I'm old enough to remember when Clinton turned an intern into a humidor. Not bad. Robert, how did your Peaky Blinders audition go? Former CDC director read Bannon last week. He said, point blank, the next pandemic will be bird flu, says Arena. King of Biltong in the house. Did you know we specialize in imported foods and candies? Check out Biltong USA for a great selection of imported food. And of course, Biltong, biltongusa.com. Code Barnes for 10% off. Biltong is amazing stuff. The Armitas maybe Bongino's former producer. Is Armitas maybe Bongino's former producer? Robert, can we patch Capricorn one next week? What is a fantastic movie? I can pick up turkey for 35 cents a pound, cheapest I've ever seen it, says Hans One Pack. Is there anyone in Trump admin that Barnes trusts? Robert, who do you trust? Harmeet Dillon?
Well, I mean, there's people that are really trying to do good work, and that's Vice President Vance, Secretary of Health and Human Services Robert Kennedy. Many of the people that are affiliated with Robert Kennedy that he brought in are trying to do as good a work as they possibly can under sometimes difficult circumstances. The Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, Undersecretary of Defense, Eldridge Colby, the Director of Civil Rights of the Civil Rights Division of the Justice Department, Harmeet Dillon, the head of the Lawfare Investigation, Ed Martin, Antitrust Division Director, Gail Slater. These are all people that are trying to do the right thing, trying to help the country, trying to help the president, trying to follow good policies that honor and respect the voters' will and that reflect and represent MAGA constitutional populist principles of holding the powerful to account and having major institutional reform. Unfortunately, they are constantly being undermined by the Mike Davises of the world. So, ask yourself, when has Mike Davis gone out and praised, say, Gail Slater? By contrast, he's constantly running interference for Pam Bondi, constantly running interference for Todd Blanche, constantly running interference for the people who are undermining the Trump administration rather than serving the interest of the Trump administration.
Let me read a couple more here. We got Barnes is wrong on food prices, at least where I live, Southwest Missouri. I went to look at my purchase history. Turkey last year was 88 cents, 70 cents. Now my whole list is a lot cheaper. My groceries overall are about 100% cheaper each month than the same time last year.
Some of these people are saying things that, by the way, any data anywhere rebut. So I think that they've convinced themselves of things and written things into their brain that are just belied and rejected. Because I got a bunch of people, oh, no, prices are much cheaper. Okay, so all the data is a fraud. Everybody else's lived experience is fake. I mean, maybe your lived experience is fake. Maybe you've gone back and selectively remembered things. I mean, you can just go and put into Perplexity, AI. Is turkey cheaper in 2025 than 2024?
You can get comparisons from the same stores. There might be discounts and whatever, and people might have changed their shopping patterns.
I think it's motivated reasoning. It's like what remember Democrats did this. When all the prices were going up and the Biden supporters were like, no, prices aren't really going up. Oh, no, you're confused. No, prices aren't really. And now it's the true Trump TDS because they got a different form of Trump derangement syndrome. If Trump said it, it must be true syndrome. And they're like, oh, no, prices are way down. All the prices are way down, Barnes. You don't understand price. It's like, what? Well, what world are you living in? It's a fantasy world. I mean, like Cat Turd was out there saying this. Other people. It's like, this is a fantasy world you're living in. It's not the real one. Because you know who told me turkey prices are up 25%? Trump's own U.S. Department of Agriculture. That's who. Man.
I'm actually just comparing it. Like you go to you can compare products from the same store this date versus last year. And I haven't noticed any reduction in food. But we all, Robert, let me also, before we get too far behind over on vivabarneslaw.locals.com, let's get a few of these and then we're going to get.
We got to get those plushies.
We do have to get those plushies. My question is in the comments because there is no tip there. I'm adding it in the live chat, says Mrs. Pickles. I'm going to look for it in a second. Mr. Barnes, you asked what Trump needs to do. Stop announcing and walking back. For example, he announced $2,000 tariff dividends for Americans, but then his staff clarifies that could actually mean deductible loans, tax rebates, etc. Robert Barnes, Esquire, why did our founding fathers add the community caretaking exception to the Bill of Rights 4th Amendment?
They didn't. I assume that's a joke.
And Robert, it's a good segue. Let's do the
yeah, because that's grade 101. So he's always
okay. Fine.
He always does the satirical questions.
First of all, I'm not sophisticated enough to get that joke, and I never get jokes when I read them for some reason. Robert, the tariffs. We'll get to, I guess, a bunch of the Supreme Court decisions. The tariffs. Hold on one second. Geez, Louise, what's the news about the tariffs? Oh, I'm getting confused.
Oh, there's an oral argument on that this week.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Okay, fine. So the markets, I wasn't following them, but I was told they tanked after Gorsuch asked a question, which lent itself to potentially mean that the deciding vote was going to decide in favor of the unlawfulness or the exceeding of congressional powers by Trump. I listened to a couple of snippets here and there, but from what I understood, it didn't look good. The question was going to be the potential remedy if his actions are declared to have been exceeding the statutory authority provided by Congress. What did you think of the oral arguments, and what's your prediction as to where it's going to go?
He's going to lose, and he might lose as bad as 9-0. So people get confused with my analysis on what the Supreme Court's going to do with what I would like the Supreme Court to do. So, or what I think about the policy. It's amazing. Some of the responses when I'm critical of any aspect of what's going on in the Trump administration, I'll get people say, well, I guess you love DeSantis, huh? It's like, you moron, you're so lazy. You can't even read, just search, go to Barnes Law under X and then search it. And then another person say, well, when I was critical of Trump saying everything's fine on the cost of living, saying this is not a smart pitch. And they were like, well, did you say that when Biden was president? I was like, yeah, just go to the page. You can go to the XP, go to the little thing that has a little magnifying glass, search where on Barnes Law post on Biden, and they'll say I'm saying twice as hard as they. But they're just too lazy, and they're so in their little quarter. So for the record, policy-wise, I have been a long advocate against my libertarian friends in favor of tariffs to rebuild American industry and manufacturing. I think it's a national security priority as well as a cultural consequential event, because when men have real jobs, the whole thing goes better. All of society goes better. All of life goes better. So that amongst other reasons, long supported it. The president announced the tariffs, and they chose, for whatever reason, Stephen Miller, whether he's got distracted or what, I don't know, does very good work on immigration. His foreign policy stuff tends to be crap. And in this arena, they convinced him that if he used the international emergencies law to support the tariff law, then that would be the best way to give him maximum flexibility. They needed to be honest with him and say, we need to stay within these confines and these parameters and not try to give him expansive power in ways that Trump would be tempted to misuse. And that's what's happened. And what I predicted was, if he starts using these tariffs for reasons not related to redomesticating American industry, like slapping tariffs on India to support Ukraine, of all people, tariffs on Brazil because he's upset about how they're treating Bolsonaro, and tariffs on other countries in response to a wide range of political things. Trump just loved it. He loved the power of tariffs so much, he started using it all over the place. And the problem was that was increasingly divorced from the statutory basis. So for those that haven't been here before, tariffs are an Article 1 power given to Congress by the Constitution of the United States. The Supreme Court ruled about 80 years ago that they can delegate that power under certain limits to the executive branch, to Article 2, to the president. And the question became, did they delegate the power to issue these tariffs that Trump issued under the international emergency laws? Was that within their constitutional power to do? And was Trump's actions consistent with it?
So the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, and that gives the argument is that, and going back to the Reagan video, the argument is that gives Trump the power to invoke a national emergency and apply a tariff, presumably on I won't say pinpoint, but on a specific issue that requires a tariff for the purposes of ensuring national security. The argument
he
here,
can ban all trade under it. He can license it. So the rhetorical argument on the Trump side is, if he can ban it and he can license it, why can't he tariff it? Even though the word tariff is not in that law, and that law has never been used before for the purpose of tariffs. The problem is tariffs are specifically mentioned in the Constitution as power given to Congress. And so what it creates is, remember the way they finally got rid of the dangerous Chevron doctrine that gave too much power to the executive branch, was they said that it's a major question. And if it's a major question, Congress needs to, with clarity and specificity, legislate on it and can't just give its legislative power to the executive branch. So there was a lot of concern over whether this invokes the major questions doctrine. The second issue is, could they delegate this to this degree? And that gets into the non-delegation doctrine. In other words, certain things are so fundamentally legislative that even if with specificity you try to delegate it, you're constitutionally prohibited from doing so. And again, all of these are coming up because he chose to use a statute that was the most vague and tried to assert the power that was the most broad. And so and of course, tariffs are unique in that they raise revenue. That's why it's given that power given to Congress.
Well, this is the question in terms of a practical solution. Hypothetically, he loses whatever 5-4 or 9-0. It could be devastating to have to reimburse that money. Now, he made a public statement, which is not the wink, wink, nudge, nudge, which is the political pressure on the judges to say, if you render the decision that declares it null and void or whatever, you'll bankrupt America and destroy the economy, whatever. What is the practical solution that the Supreme Court could issue that would, on the one hand, declare that he exceeded whatever powers there was to apply those broad blanket tariffs, but while preserving, Congress's ability to ratify the action themselves? Can they say this is bad and it's up to Congress to fix it?
So there's two different parts. One is what's going to happen on the tariffs. Are they going to say he has this authority to begin with? And then how will they limit that authority? Will they say, well, in this particular instance, it was a misuse of this statute? Or will they go beyond that and say, actually, Congress can't delegate this authority to you? Or will they go even beyond that and say, Congress, this is a major question, and Congress has to legislate on it with much more particularity, and they failed to do so here? Because that impacts both what he can do down the road. Now, in terms of remedy, they are going to be reluctant to order a refund. Right now, the way that would work is, in this case, only the parties that are parties to the case, because not brought as a class action, only the parties to the case get a refund. Nobody else gets a refund. Now, what is you can petition for a refund through the administrative process, but that takes years. So the other possibility they could do is stay the remedy and allow Congress to give Congress a window of opportunity to legislate on it in such a way that we don't owe $1 trillion back, because that would be a different kind of our policy disaster for the president.
Yeah, the other countries who have all had to pay this tariff are going to say, well, it was unlawful, and now we want reimbursement from the American government, so we have to go through the court process.
But it's a long administrative process to get that, usually 2-3 years. So but it would severely damage Trump's credibility. And one of his is if they constrain and constrict his policy and issue a refund. I think they'll try to find a compromise to where the refund is not immediately due. But I do think the three liberals are against him, no surprise there. Then Gorsuch's questioning was very skeptical across the board. So he's lost Gorsuch is my guess. Then Roberts' questioning was very skeptical. Well, now you're down. You're 5-4. You're finished. The problem is, even Thomas and Alito had problems with it. They were trying to find arguments Trump could make, but you could tell they really weren't sold because it may have been Gorsuch that asked the question. He's like, if this emergency power is this broad, couldn't a president say that climate change is an emergency and thereby issue tariffs on anything and everything they wanted around the world? That could basically be the taxes in disguise in that sense. And the opinion apparently was, yeah, they could. It's like, well, hold on a second, right? That's going to get Alito and Thomas's attention as to how much power do we want to give the president in this context?
Well, no, but I mean, the answer has to follow from the conduct. But what would be the practical problem that Gorsuch would find from that answer? They say if we declare it's a climate crisis, we can impose tariffs on every country on Earth, pretty much, on specific products that have a nexus to purported climate change, a purported nexus.
Well, yeah, I mean, and what Trump unfortunately has had to assert is that he doesn't have to show a nexus either, because he quit showing a nexus when he tariffed India for on Russian oil for Ukraine. That has no connection to the domestic manufacturing base at all. So it also cost him the Indian vote support, not a big constituency, but they also jumped ship in the 2025 elections. So and for what? For Ukraine? I mean, if you're doing over H-1B visas, have at it. I'm all with you. Over Ukraine? Unbelievable. But so I think that's the problem. I think there is pretty much no chance that the scale of authority he was asserting he will get. Mm-hmm. I think the opinion of the Federal Court of Claims will ultimately be affirmed. But if you're on the Trump administration side, what may be more unsettling is the Supreme Court may gut your power to issue tariffs in the future outside of limited circumstances. They may say you have to go follow these specific statutes. You have to follow these specific. And Gorsuch and Roberts were inclined to say, even that's probably not enough, because it's the kind of major question that Congress has to really legislate itself, that Congress has to decide the tariff rate, not the president at some level, and outside of very unique circumstances. Now, there's about a quartet of statutes he can use, but those statutes require investigation. They have a cap on the length of the time of the tariff, a cap on the amount of the tariff. It's much more difficult to use those other statutes. This was an attempt to broadly empower the president in matters of trade policy, and I think the Supreme Court's going to gut it. And I think, unfortunately, the president put himself in this position because he was encouraged and incentivized to use it for anything and everything. People like Lindsey Graham were whispering in his ear, hey, tariff those people too, for the latest war cause that Graham's so excited and out of bed in the morning. So I think that's, unfortunately, it was amazing is Soros' Scotty Bessent came out saying they were going to win. And it's like, how can you be that slow? But I guess he's shown he's that slow in a wide range of other contexts. By the way, if you're going to send somebody out to talk about championing the working class, don't send out the Wall Street guy, right? It's not even a good look about, it's just a mistake. But the Soros Scotty Bessent, I think, has sabotaged the president. And one of the ways he did so was encourage him to misuse and abuse tariff power in a way that now is going to gut his ability to use it over the next 3 years.
Let me bring one CommieTube question up, because it's there's a few here that I've missed. Oh, it just literally disappeared. Oh, for goodness sake. Did I even screenshot it? Here it is, right here. A lowly welder such as I have this to say. I don't have any faith that this ship can be righted. There's just too many corrupt, even if well-intended. As I felt before he was elected, Trump was too little, too late. Well, I hope you're wrong about that, but if America falls, there's nowhere to go back. There's nowhere to go to, people. So let me read a few more here, Robert, and then we're going to get to the SNAP and the other one there. What was the other one? Oh, the FEMA illegal immigration funding, which they said was not happening, but it's actually happening. F. Chatron says, the outrage burns me in a way nothing else ever had. I am white hot with rage, and that's never going away. Thank you for holding the torch, Viva. That's about the ostriches. Cousin Eddie says, Viva, I'm behind on the ostriches, but mate, I got that. So what's the Canadian government going to do when there is an influenza outbreak in an elementary school? They know they're going to make you quarantine your kids like they did the last time. It would take an average hunter one shot to kill an animal at that distance. They meant to extract max anguish. I agree. Canadian government is run by retards. The fundamental technical problem with avian flu is that it kills the fertilized chicken eggs used in the vaccine production process. Though ostriches weren't a problem, they were a solution. Well, if my theory is correct, the pharma companies that are behind this heist knew that, and they've got all that information right now. Today, ostriches, tomorrow, human protesters, says Mark Roberts. I'm thinking they should take the birds, load them up, and start leaving the carcasses on the lawn of the court that refused to hear the case. No, they'll go after the house. They'll go after the owners for criminal charges, which they're already doing. They slaughtered the birds and left the carnage for them to deal with. They tortured and demoralized the owners. It won't stop there. It started with Artur Pawlowski. During the illegal lockdown, Canada has fallen. Okay, we're going to get to Tzedakah afterwards. No,
they made the fussy of you and the wife.
I think that's very. It looks good. Viva, I hope it's okay to share this. My husband has an opportunity to partake in a trial to help fight non-Hodgkin lymphoma. We have a Give, Send, Go to help with travel and lodging. It's a 24-week test. I appreciate all the prayers and any help for this fight. God bless you all. I'm going to give everybody that link in the main chat right now and put that on blast. And if you can help, please help. Robert, SNAP, I guess. SNAP. We'll go from SNAP to illegal funding. I don't know if that's the proper segue, but we've done it.
Also, then the gender issue is its own animal too.
Okay, so
there's the Supreme Court. It's California Supreme Court and a Sixth Circuit case on that. But the shutdown SNAP, you had a federal judge say, no, I demand you pay everybody now, usurp the power of the purse. And then it was Justice Jackson who issued a stay, by the way. Justice Jackson on Friday said, no, this order doesn't have to go into effect until there's further briefing on this for a couple of days. And I think that gave inspiration to Democrats who it was breaking today. I don't know what the latest is, but that they're going to cut a deal. Now, the nature of the deal is they're going to get reinstated, all the people that they planned on permanently laying off under RIF. The whole point and purpose of the shutdown, Republicans are going to have to forfeit now because they misplayed it and how they handled it and some other issues, it appears. But so I don't think we'll get an ultimate final decision from the Supreme Court on SNAP because it looks like, for those worried about air traffic controllers and other issues, it looks like they're going to cut a deal this week if you've taken the Cauchy pick I put out, which was that it'll be under 45 days, then you would have cashed. It looks like you will cash on that. It was almost as good as Viva's UFC picks.
Oh, God. I was on fire. I got 7 of 7, and then we got into a 3 back-to-back unluckies, and then we made it back on the... I was 9 for 12 yesterday. That's 75% accuracy rate.
Did you see that fight that I think we bet wrong a couple of weeks ago, and it turned out it may have been fixed? Do you see that story?
No. UFC?
Yeah, there's a huge UFC fixing story allegation.
Oh, son of... I'm going to Google that. I'm going to look that up in a second when we get to the other one. So, Robert, the SNAP funding, the question is this. What is the reserve about which they're speaking where they say, if you don't have enough in the budget, there's a contingency fund that has billions of dollars, use that. What is the contingency fund for? What was it set up for? And if that's the argument, why is the contingency fund not, why can't you dip into that for every government program during a shutdown?
Well, you kind of can, and that's where there's a prioritization issue. Now, I think for whatever reason, in the last week of October, the Trump administration decided to not use the contingency fund to pay SNAP. I think Trump thought it was leverage. I think that was a mistake. Whoever advised him to do that was not a good PR political decision. To have people lined up at food banks is just not a political winner. It doesn't matter, what the backstory is. It doesn't matter how much fraud and corruption there is in that program. You're still going to have old people, disabled people, and little kids lined up for food banks while Trump's redoing the ballroom and doing Gatsby parties at Mar-a-Lago. This is not the look you want if you're on the Republican side. But to me, it's the only thing a court can require is where Congress has with specificity said this money will go to this program at this time and this purpose and appropriated it accordingly. Can it order it? It's usurping the power of the purse in doing this. And even Justice Jackson granted a stay. I mean, for at least a period of time, 48 hours, because it's very dubious what the federal court is doing. Now, again, it might all get mooted pretty fast if they cut a deal, which it looks like they likely will this week, like as early as maybe as of tonight or tomorrow, because the Senate's still in session. So but there's other cases that are going forward. That are the same. They're a constant effort of federal judges to usurp the power of the purse and the power of the executive branch to terminate programs that are violating federal law. They're just refusing. No, you will continue to fund our NGOs. You will continue to fund illegal sanctuary cities. You will continue to fund migrant shelters that are basically money for NGOs. These migrant shelters were paying to put people up at luxury hotels.
Well, but it was. This is the FEMA. This is a case where back in the day, it was during the hurricane in South Carolina, where it was being reported that FEMA, ran out of money, and then people were like, you're spending hundreds of millions of dollars on emergency shelters where you're taking FEMA funds, and now you don't have any for an actual federal emergency, and they say, no, it's fake news. That's from a separate fund and not from the FEMA funds at large. And now we're actually finding out this is in the Chicago case. Which court is this before?
So, yeah, this is the Northern District of Illinois.
Okay. So this is where now a court has ruled that Trump must finance through FEMA shelters for illegal aliens in Chicago, and that he cannot stop the funding for it because it requires a good reason and can't be retroactive. Like they basically accuse them of using federal funds for illicit, illegal purposes, which is funding shelters for illegal aliens.
Well, harboring illegals and bringing illegals in, which was not part of, it can't, that's a federal crime. You can't use federal funds to commit a federal crime.
Through FEMA, though. Like, how does the federal emergency, whatever
They disguised it as a federal emergency.
And so these are the same sanctuary cities that say we're going to not comply with federal law enforcement, ICE, to deport illegal aliens. And we're going to demand federal dollars via federal emergency provisions to fund shelters for illegal aliens while local veterans, Americans are on the street. And the judge says you have to continue funding it and you cannot cut funding to it.
Exactly. And the other problem the judge had is the Supreme Court now is in back-to-back cases said any contract dispute, because these are NGOs bringing the suit, any contract dispute has to go to the Court of Federal Claims. You don't get to venue shop. And that's why they've shut down these rogue federal judges that have done this again and again and again in other contexts. So it's like, how do you get out of this? And he said, withholding money is magically different than not paying money. So he's like, it's not really a contract dispute because you're just withholding the money. It's not a matter of not paying, you've withheld. And that this magically makes it okay for him to issue an injunction to force money to be paid, despite the jurisdictional requirement under Congress that this claim has to go to the Court of Federal Claims. The reason they're not going to the Court of Federal Claims is that they know they might get shut down in the Court of Federal Claims that will apply traditional legal standards to their claim. And that basically this was within the president's executive discretion when he sees that money is being misused and abused, not to pay it, because Congress appropriation was very generic here. There was no, we hereby order that the President of the United States shall send money to help illegal immigrants live in fancy hotels. That ain't in the law. Nor could the judge find it in the law. He just made it out of the law. And it's part of this constant pattern that the Supreme Court's going to have to keep shooting it down, until they finally learn to stop, because what we have is an ongoing judicial insurrection.
I'm looking up that fight, Robert. I did not hear about that, and I feel like okay. What do we segue into now?
Well, I mean, speaking of judicial insurrection, then there was the effort of the federal judges to claim we've got a trio of cases, but this was about the Trump administration saying somebody's name on their passport needs to identify their biological gender. One of the key reasons for this is to be able to track them, a whole bunch of other reasons for this, make sure people can't escape in certain instances, you name it. And some people sued, and a federal judge said that's discriminatory. You have to use their preferred pronoun. You, the federal government, have no right to say what their biological sex is or require that be identified on their passport.
It's so, first of all, the reasoning in this case was very compelling, but it's so absurd that it even got to the court. So the issue was, I forget what year it was, where they allowed a person on their passport to include in their sex the gender with which they identify. And so not their biological sex at birth. And it's clear to anybody with half a brain who's not a demented individual. They sued. When did they allow this, that you can add your gender identity on a passport?
It was a Biden administration policy.
Okay. So, and now Trump comes in and says, no, we're undoing it. It's biological sex at birth, male or female, period. They get an injunction. The injunction was issued initially, if I'm not mistaken. And then finally they came in and said, no, we're going to stay the injunction. We're going to stay enjoining the ability to do this. It's too confusing. Trump can impose this policy now. And the rationale for why they said it is they said there's nothing prejudicial about stating a historical fact on your passport in as much as it states your country of origin, your nationality, what country you are on your passport is as objective and non-discriminatory as what sex you were at birth. And so they stayed the injunction in preventing Trump from imposing the policy. Now they can do it pending a final adjudication. And, in order to do that, they say likelihood of success on the merits. It's an objective, actual clinical insanity that this had to get to where it was and require the courts to say nothing wrong with making them say what sex they were at birth, so that if you need to get them and find them for whatever the reason, you know who you're looking for.
And speaking of forced of this whole gender pronoun trans ideology being sort of pushed down everybody's throat, we had the Sixth Circuit and the California Supreme Court both address it in the First Amendment context. This goes back to the old Jordan Peterson issue that sent Jordan Peterson into fame at the time, which is these institutions compelling people to identify someone by their selective, subjective, preferred pronoun rather than the objective reality of their biological gender. And so we had the Sixth Circuit en banc. They decided this en banc, make one ruling, and then the California Supreme Court on the exact same issue make the opposite ruling, suggesting that this issue also will have to reach the Supreme Court.
Oh, it says, deal reached to end shutdown, as Marty Smith fan over on ComeyTube says.
Yeah, which I predicted about 2 weeks ago, by the way. As soon as the election was over, all of a sudden Democrats are going to be like, yeah, we can kind of deal now.
Robert, let me read a few of the chats before we get into the next subject here. I'm falling far behind on Tzedaka. I sent the link and I just gave as well. So Godspeed and keep fighting. Viva Fry, sending you some positive energy to help you fight these demons. I'm concerned about going back to Canada over Christmas, but we'll see. Mr. Barnes, could a key to winning the midterms be stimulating the economy in a way Dems would revoke if voted back into power? I had in mind massive deregulation, but don't know whether this could be achieved by either executive order or a simple majority vote in Congress. Vladirenter, that is definitely a new name. Thank God we got rid of Biden so we can finally have more government stimulus checks and 50-year mortgages. Clout, Cash and Bongino turning out to be the biggest letdowns in history. I just think Bongino doesn't have the power to do what he.
Yeah, that's my takeaway as well. I just think he's got to start thinking about, if he cares about his legacy at all, if he's not able to get anything done, he needs to step down rather than be complicit just because of his presence in the screw ups and cover ups that counterfeit cash appears to be in doing.
And I could rationalize what Bongino might be saying to himself if what I think is true. He's saying, well, look, I'm just going to fight crime and I'm going to do good at fighting crime.
I'm going to try to do this, try to fix this. But it's so damaging and embarrassing that this is just, the Epstein thing was to me, implosive enough. This story is either find a way to make sure this gets fully investigated and we get remedy, or if you can't, then it's time to step down and highlight the scale and scope of the problem. That will put pressure on the president to clear it up and clean it up.
Barnes, this is Bender is great. Barnes should do a video response to Piers Morgan regarding Alex Jones. He had an episode with Dave Smith, spotted all the standard talking points. Piers Morgan's an idiot. He blocked me, by the way, on Twitter when I pointed out. He blocked me for saying things that he's now saying about Israel on October 7. But it'd be a great profile opportunity to get the truth out there. Okay, let's take this out for a second. We're going to come back to it. Robert, let me see what we get into here.
Well, we got the Sixth Circuit of the California Supreme Court on when do these pronoun speech codes violate the First Amendment?
You're going to field that one. When do they? I'm going to tell you, if it's California Court of Appeals, when do they?
California Supreme Court.
So I'm going to go ahead and say that they never do.
Take a wild guess at what the California Supreme Court says.
You, in fact, violate their First Amendment rights by not referring to them by their sex of choice, their gender. They've ratified all this. I mean, California is going the way of Canada, so they had to have ratified it and make you use the gender.
To give you an idea how much this trans idolatry is being force-fed into people. So these are nurses and others, medical assistants, that help people in long-term medical care facilities. California passed a law requiring that anybody that was providing services to someone had to find out what their preferred pronoun is and only refer to them as their preferred pronoun. Otherwise, it was going to be discrimination and the person could get fired. So if you had some loony old person, you had to treat them according to whatever they called their gender, preferred pronoun, or whatever else they said to call me. I mean, you can imagine. I mean, all the pranks that you could do with this. Some old guy is a little bit bored. Call me King Solomon, please. Call me whatever. But you had to, and if you didn't, you would get fired. And so they brought suit. People representing him are like, this doesn't make any sense. This is a speech code control meant to impose this cultural ideology that's actually against good medicine and against good science. And that we should be able to refer to someone by their biological sex and not have to obsess while we're providing medical care. Oh, I got to double check what do I call this person? And California Supreme Court said, no, that's fine. That they're just trying to prevent discrimination. And so it's not really a First Amendment imposition. And to the degree it is, it's justified by preventing discrimination, by calling somebody by whatever name they demand to be called by. But the exact same logic, but in the school context, went before the Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals en banc. And it was a school district that required it banned you, and it banned students from using biological pronouns. So the teachers and the students had to refer to someone by their preferred pronoun. I mean, this invites like a South Park level parody that's times 10. But
It invites a rebellious teenager to say, fuck all of you. Yeah. She, he, no, they, zer, them, they. I'm still trying to figure out the he, they one, but that one, it's institutionalized
multiple
mental
personalities.
Well, it is clearly, is it the teachers union that's the issue here? I mean,
Well, partially, but it's mostly the trans ideology with people who dominate school boards and school districts. Like the sort of the loony assistant principal who didn't want to do something about the armed 6-year-old. We'll get to that in a little bit. It's trying to force it through control. Like it's all the people pushing the Mark Levins and the rest who think we're still in the 1950s and that they can gatekeep who you're allowed to listen to and who you're allowed, what opinions you're allowed to have. And they're just using the power of the state in these instances to force it on people. And the Sixth Circuit en banc, this relates to what we said previous other school cases. So a school district may not restrict speech on matters of public concern unless the speech would materially and substantially disrupt school activities or infringe on the legal rights of others. And they said that's not the case here. You have no legal right to be identified by your preferred pronoun, like the Supreme Court said in the passport case, like the Sixth Circuit says here, but in direct contradiction and conflict with the California Supreme Court. That's why I think the Supreme Court's going to have to address this more fully. So this insanity of using the school system control and licensure control to impose speech codes on people in order to indoctrinate them ideologically has to be taken apart, because it's exactly what the First Amendment is there to prohibit and prevent.
I'm bringing up some of the. It's insanity to me that these discussions are even being had with kids in the first place, because they don't come from the students up; they come from the teachers down, and this is sexualized talk at its core. When you're asking someone, how do you identify in terms of gender, you're talking sexual preference and you're talking sex with kids, and it's abject brainwashing that this is the biggest argument for homeschooling that you're ever going to get. Okay. They will get to the Supreme Court, and it's going to be time for Ketanji Brown Jackson to get that biologist and determine what a woman is. But it's the idea of compelled speech to force someone. It's not even on a religious basis to force me to say anything to anybody in a school system. Like I don't care what you're they, whatever the hell it is. Robert,
no doubt. And we still have the Ben-Shuf case. The Trump hush money case, the streamer Osmongold case, big tech facing final jury response in their hurting mental health, because that's a natural transition. Boeing, the $10 million school case, and jury nullification in D.C.
Okay, let me do a few. Let's not to fall too far behind here. Let's get a few more in Rumble. In Viva Barnes. Which Andrew Piscatlo says, me and my friends back in New York used to watch Bongino post Butler only. He got his inside intel. We wanted our president to live, and we knew the deep state almost killed Trump to get their way at war in Iran. I see you, Pompeo. If Bongino and the admin doesn't expose the deep state, we will expose you. Angry lesbians' frustrations can be released with a... Okay, sorry. I'll skip that. Robert, let's do Boeing. This is a shocking one because, this goes back to 2019, 2018. It was an It was a flight to Ethiopia. There's a man, one of the plaintiffs in the lawsuit, who lost his wife and 3 kids in the plane crash. It was as a result of it was criminal negligence. They pleaded guilty to criminal negligence, if I'm not mistaken, or criminal fraud, where they were misrepresenting the safety of their planes. 2 planes crashed. A total of 364 people died between the both of them. A husband lost his entire family, and what was not a deferred prosecution? What's the settlement? They basically
a sweetheart deal, basically. Just
basically paid
write a partial check and no trial, no problems. Boeing can be back doing what they usually do.
A $1.14 billion criminal penalty or settlement, which I guess goes to the victims after I don't know what other costs.
In a mixture of other people, yeah.
And a judge, one of the judges was skeptical about the agreement, but nonetheless, it seems to be going through right now. I think some of the victims are suing because they said they want their day in court. They want people to go to jail. People would. How the hell do you buy your way out of a trial? Potential jail time. Like, that's nothing shy.
You make sure the attorney general has a nickname like Pay for Play. That's how.
They've assured the general public that they fixed their security issues and that they're no longer criminally, fraudulently
Remember all those whistleblowers that mysteriously died on Boeing? We still haven't got investigation on that. So and then of course, more and more information keeps coming out about Epstein. That in terms of, it wasn't ever just a honeypot operation. This was Mike Benz made this point repeatedly. Epstein was a major money launderer and information launderer and guns runner. And it turns out he was doing business with Israel on a regular routine basis as their key middleman. He kind of replaced Mark Rich throughout these stories, like whether it's the Ivory Coast, it's, this country, Russia, other countries, the key middleman always involved Jeffrey Epstein. Is that why we're covering it up? Is that why we're hiding it, to cover up for Israel? That won't be a good look for the president of the White House. So, I think they should just, bite the bullet and get it all out there. But we'll see. But it's part of these other, the Boeing case, whether they go forward on the antitrust case against Big Ag, these other cases, they need to start proving their bona fides and letting people who are doing good work, like Gail Slater, take the lead and do good work. No more interference by Pam Bondi. No more interference by Mike, I pretend to be MAGA, Davis. No more interference by any of these people. And there's others out there that are in the same boat. And we're going to continue to call them out. I've given a lot of people a lot of patience for about a year. Done with it. Finished with it. Over with it. So the number of people that try to buy you off is unbelievable. But that's another story for another day.
What was I listening today to? I think it was Brett Weinstein with Joe Rogan. Yeah, it was either him or Elon Musk, but they were talking about people who are uncorruptible don't get into positions of power. They keep them out, and they make sure to get the people in that are corruptible.
And we've got a few people that truly are uncorruptible, in my opinion. And Robert Kennedy, proven that over a lifetime. J.D. Vance is vice president. Eldridge Colby, who's taken a lot of heat to provide dissident, independent information about how to really build up our national security in a way that doesn't get us involved in stupid wars all over the place. People like Gail Slater, OG, MAGA, true believer in using the antitrust laws to reinforce our laws. Harmeet Dillon, go to the civil rights. Ed Martin, old school. But they need to be given the power, not Pam Bondi. She needs to stop interrupting and interfering with it. Not Todd Blanche. Stop interrupting and interfering with it, and we can get progress.
Does this go to Susie Wiles?
Oh, Swampy Susie is in neck deep in all of this. What you have effectively is Trump has brought in a quartet of people to block reforms and remedies, whether he understands or appreciates that or not. And one of those is Soros, Scotty Bessent. George Soros made him fabulously rich. He will protect George Soros at all costs. That's been why, in my opinion, we've seen no follow-up on anything related to all the NGO corruption, whether it's what Doge outed, whether it's what came out in the murder assassination of Charlie Kirk. Kash Patel interfered with Tulsi Gabbard and Joe Kent, trying to do an investigation into Antifa's role, and went screaming to the White House with the help of Swampy Susie to shut it down. That's how bad he can't wait to hop on that federal plane and go see his little girlfriend perform because she's so important to America. He actually said that with a straight face. The guy's a joke. Joke. Counterfeit cash. Total joke.
Robert, I just want to remind everyone of the whistleblowers. John Barnett, Joshua Dean, died in recent years under circumstances that are drawn scrutiny. John Barnett raised concerns about quality and safety issues, was found dead in March from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. Bullshit. Joshua Dean died a few months later, sudden bacterial infection after being in good health. The second one, look, I presume that a bacterial infection is a tougher way to get somebody. A gun is not.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. But now we've got the Trump. Now, on the positive side of a federal court, finally did what we said they should have done from the get-go in the Trump hush-hush case, which is say maybe this never belonged in state court after all.
Yeah, so this was the one where after the Supreme Court ruling came down, talked about presidential immunity, said, there's a presumption of presidential immunity. There is absolute immunity for core constitutional presidential duties, and there is a presumption for all other things, and purely personal, no immunity. But you have to do the exercise to see which acts are what. Now, if I remember correctly, this was a question as to whether or not the state court had jurisdiction, given that there's going to be certain presidential immunity defenses being raised, right? And they said, no, we have jurisdiction. It's a state case, whatever. And the Federal Court of Appeal didn't change the jurisdiction. They just said you have to go through this exercise to determine if this falls within state jurisdiction. So sending it back down, look at these questions again and determine if you have jurisdiction, which I guess...
What you had is this judge who should have granted. So they file the hush-hush money indictment case, and Trump immediately goes to seek removal and says, look, I'm a federal officer. Almost all the issues that are in the case concern when I was a federal officer, when I was president of the United States, or at least key parts of the case allege that. And consequently, this is under, what is it? If you are alleged to have committed a state crime for something you did while you were a federal officer, you have a right under federal law to remove that criminal case to federal court to prevent the state from usurping federal authority. When Trump went to the court, and the court pretended that it had nothing to do with his federal authority, which was utter garbage. So then the Supreme Court issues a decision that says, by the way, all of these cases that are being pursued against him, the evidence being used triggers his immunity as president and couldn't be used as evidence against him. When in the New York case, hush money case, they relied on a bunch of evidence that concerned it. So at that point, Trump goes back to federal court. And what is you're allowed to file a removal request outside of the 30 days if there's good cause.
He filed one, which was turned down. The decision came down. The Supreme Court's decision came down. So he files another one saying a second kick at the can. And they say, was it the delay or was it the good cause that they got him on the first?
The judge makes no substantive evaluation of whether he should change his analysis based on the Supreme Court's determination of what evidence was used at trial. Instead, he says, no, it's too late. And then nothing that you're saying it could be good cause. When he could not have filed that particular removal, when one, he did file the removal request initially, and two, he couldn't file that particular request at that point because the Supreme Court decision hadn't come down yet, nor such evidence used at the trial yet. And the judge just refused to apply the good cause analysis, which is if you have good cause for filing outside of the 30-day window to remove a state case to federal court, then they have to hear the removal substance of merits of the petition. The district court judge refused to, just ignored it because this is how power mad they all are in the Trump era. That's why hopefully we finally start seeing progress with some judges impeached, for the love of God. Like Judge Boasberg, start there, one of the most corrupt rogue judges in the country. And then I would start looking at some of these New York judges. But the Second Circuit said, you completely misapplied the good cause analysis. And if you look at the merits, this sure as heck looks like a removal case. What that likely means is if the New York Court of Appeals doesn't completely invalidate the conviction, then the federal courts are going to take it up and they're going to invalidate the conviction.
This is the judge is Alvin Hellerstein. Does that name ring a bell?
Yeah.
A Clinton appointee.
One of these old liberal judges used to doing whatever he wants, whenever he wants. That's why they need meaningful discipline through impeachment proceedings, regardless of whether you secure convictions or not.
I don't remember giving that judge not a hard time, but any scrutiny like we gave Judge Merchan to determine why he was that corrupt in that case.
We hammered him at the time, both times, because it was his logic and arguments made no sense.
No,
really political.
No, absolutely. In terms of the law,
it's hard to be as corrupt as Mershon or Mr. Judge Nipples there.
All right, so that's Trump succeeding for the time being, and ultimately will prevail on that particular case. That's the hush money one. What else?
We got the streamer case, the Benjuve case, the Meta going to trial on basically getting our kids hooked and in some cases dead. $10 million to the school teacher. That was unbelievable what came out in that case. And then a jury and judicial nullification. Speaking of corruption,
we got to do
the James Comey case and the jury nullification that happened again in D.C. this past week.
Before we do anything, we were just over 20,000 a few minutes ago. Make sure on Rumble, subscribe, thumbs up on more or less. If you want to give a thumbs down, hit the like button.
And in the words of Cartman or South Park, makes you feel good.
Tell me if it makes me feel. Tell me if it makes you feel good, peeps. On CommieTube, share this stuff because CommieTube has been engaging in algorithmic suppression. There's zero question, but make sure you like.
It got rid of Russians with attitude. It deleted their entire account without explanation. It gave a false strike to that. Remember, we interviewed that Star Wars girl.
Yep.
Does a lot of fun socials. She has a cool calendar out, costume calendar out, all that kind of play stuff. They gave her a false strike that YouTube is refusing to correct. And by the way, it appears, unfortunately, this is connected to the corrupting effect of the Israel lobby on the Trump administration, because it appears YouTube's excuse is various announcements from and policies of the Trump administration to crack down on any pro-Palestinian activities. And it's creating DEI policies on Ivy League universities. It's creating speech codes on these universities. They're selectively, if somebody threatens somebody that's connected to the Israel lobby at any level, like a Laura Loomer or a Josh Hammer, the feds are right on it. They're right on it, making sure that person gets prosecuted and arrested, you name it. If it's Owen Schroyer and he gets wrongfully swatted like a bunch of conservatives were,
still nothing.
Nothing. Nowhere to be found. This is embarrassing. For the Trump administration. It's also bad policy. So we're supposed to get out of the censorship business. That's what Trump was supposed to be doing, not getting us in. Out of the DEI business, not further in. Out of the speech code business, not further in. So this needs to get fixed.
Bill Dozer says, fuck Kash Patel. Okay, I'm not reading that. I'm getting in trouble here. What I was going, I'm going to go see. There we go. One. That's a little better. Okay, good. Thank you. It still should be higher. It's proportionally higher on CommieTube, but I suspect maybe a lot of people watch Rumble on the TV app, so it's not as easy to do. Okay, let's just get to the other scumbag of the day, James Comey. Can you flesh out I appreciate a magistrate judge. They're appointed by a real judge, but they're not, anybody can be a magistrate judge. You don't have to be a lawyer. You don't have to have been a judge prior to. You just have limited powers as a magistrate judge. That's basically the distinction.
I get distracted by somebody in the chat said, I think Viva likes the cosplay calendar too.
I was laughing because I know what's in that calendar. No, I don't. I'm married, people.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, you almost never see a magistrate hold the government to account about discovery or anything else. What you're seeing is the scale, scope, severity of corruption in these particular districts, especially the sovereign district of New York, the district of corruption known as DC, and the district court of Alexandria. That's where we've had jury nullifications. That's where we've had grand jury nullifications. And that's where we're now seeing judicial nullification.
We're gonna pat ourselves on the back. We called it. We said the only thing that's going to save James Comey is judicial or jury nullification. In comes this magistrate, a magistrate judge Fitzpatrick, who has less powers than a real judge. It makes me wonder. I maybe you don't know this offhand, but does he have carriage of the trial, or was it just one particular motion that got before him?
So what it is a magistrate is appointed by the judges. I've never been a fan of this whole process. So they are not appointed by the Senate or the president. Mm-hmm. They get no confirmation from that. It's just the judges appoint them. And so a district court judge presiding over a case can assign issues to the magistrate.
Okay, so he gets some motion, some hearings, but not the ultimate bottom line of the case. But this guy gets in there, Fitzpatrick, and I think it's mutually incompatible, the statements that he made, that this was indict first, investigate later, which is, I appreciate the indictment was not poorly. It was a little bit summary.
People like Mike Davis have been lying about saying that there was this committee and everybody was working on it. It was well organized. That clearly was a lie.
Well,
because that's how this gets rushed, is because that was never happening. Pam Bondi and Todd Blanche were never doing that. Mike Davis was just lying about it.
Well, and I remember saying it at the time, because when I read through that indictment, I was like, oh, they didn't mention Dan Richmond, the Columbia law professor. I thought that's what the indictment was going to be for in terms of the leak and the lies, whatever. It was about what he said about the 2016 Clinton matters and who he alleged to gave information to be leaked. So he makes a motion to dismiss. They come in with a response, which has a whole slew of new allegations about Dan Richmond and other stuff, further evidencing the substantiating the claim. Fitzpatrick says, this looks like indict first, investigate later, and then simultaneously says, you're dumping too much additional documentation on James Comey, and he's not going to be able to go through this. You've had this in your possession for 5 years, and it's not fair now. Everything about it is wrong, Robert. The guy says, indict first, investigate later, as if they rushed it, but then they have too much documentation for James Comey to even look at. That they've had it for 5 years. It was 4 years under the Biden administration. Of course, they didn't give it to Comey. And now the new admin is dumping it or disclosing it to James Comey. And they put out this narrative, which I believe taints the jury pool in the area. Now you're going to have people saying, well, the judge said it, and they're going to end up on the jury pool. He's going to walk, is what's going to happen.
I mean, well, that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to set it up to dismiss the case for judicial nullification first, and then if that gets reversed on appeal, that they get jury nullification later, and at a minimum they delay it and drag it out long enough to where he never faces a real possibility of sentencing until Trump is no longer in the White House.
Mm-hmm.
And this is why these cases needed to be handled out of the Southern District of Florida, and why they needed to be prosecuted there. As part of an ongoing conspiracy to violate President Trump and many other people's civil rights.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the product of Pam Bondi not doing her job. That the reason why this got rushed and got stuck in Alexandria is because Bondi had no plan. Bondi was doing nothing but figuring out where her next check was going to come from and who she was going to reward next. Todd Blanche, same thing. Mike Davis been running cover for that loser. He knows as well as anybody how not to bring a prosecution, and yet he clearly had no plan at all to bring. He just finally emailed the Colorado authorities about the Tina Peters case. This is evidence of they have put themselves in a position where Comey can get to walk by their own failures to do their job in the way it should have been done. Credit to the prosecutor there in the Eastern District of Virginia for at least bringing the prosecution before the statute of limitations ran out. So I don't blame her at all.
Mm-hmm.
But I do blame Pam Bondi, and I do blame Todd Blanche for not being on top of this at all, and Kash Patel for not being on top of this at all. I mean, this was the former director of the FBI who was notoriously corrupt, who tried to rig elections, who tried to interfere in elections, who ran basically massive perjury campaigns to smear an incumbent president to do a de facto coup of an election. I mean, this guy's one of the worst criminals in the history of the FBI, and that's saying something. And one of the worst criminals in the history of public policy in this country. And yet it was a prosecutor had to rush to bring the case because all the rogue actors in the Eastern District of Virginia had not been fired because Pam Bondi had interfered with her Fox News schedule. And it's just embarrassing. What we're seeing is this guy is clearly guilty. The prosecutors brought overwhelming evidence of the guilt, and the judges are eager to do judicial nullification and see an easy opportunity to do it because the case is in Alexandria and because the case wasn't prepped and prepared and planned like it should have been and would have been, and like Mike Davis lied to everybody and claimed it was.
Yeah, well, we're going to see. I also think, what did the lawyers argue? Malicious, vindictive.
No, of course, selective prosecution. It's not selective prosecution. This is an actual criminal, and who engaged in high-profile criminality that people wanted public accountability for. And the same judges that said Trump's prosecutions, which clearly were selective prosecution, are going to turn around, who said it somehow wasn't, are going to turn around and say this was. Because judicial nullification.
No, I forgot. And also alleging that they violated solicitor-client privilege in the evidence that they've gotten in this case.
I know. Can you imagine that?
Well, because now he's going to say that Dan Richmond, the Columbia law professor, they had a solicitor-client privilege, and so they can't. All of that correspondence.
The entire case against Trump was built on breaching attorney-client privilege.
It was
turned a complete blind eye to it and did nothing about it. So it just shows you how political and partisan these judges are, how these districts are irredeemable. And Congress needs to go back, get rid of the district of corruption altogether as a federal district, doesn't need to exist, and look at getting rid of some of these other districts, like the Sovereign District of New York, like the Eastern District of Virginia, that they're proving incapable. Just look at the case of a DOJ employee who threw a subway sandwich at the people in the National Guard who were there to help control some of the crime that was raging in D.C. And this guy assaults an officer, gets prosecuted on just a basic misdemeanor, and the jury nullifies and acquits him, even though he had no defense. He admitted he did it. Everybody saw that he did it. It was right there on video, and yet they acquit him anyway because it's pure jury nullification in D.C. right now.
It's so wild. I mean, the argument is, well, you couldn't hurt someone with a sandwich anyhow, so you wipe it off and carry on with your day. And had it been roles reversed, I mean, had he been a Jan 6er, he would have been locked up for years. Okay, hold on. Let's get a couple more.
It does always remind me of they do the meme, and it says, the moment Bill Gates decided to kill the world. And it was when he got hit with a cake.
In America, what is the amount of U.S. dollars where cash becomes illegal and subject to civil asset forfeiture? What is he? There is none, is it there? Oh, no, this is Gray 101 again.
That's Gray 101, yes.
I'm okay. And then we got Bongino needs to get out now because he talked big about that pipe bomber. Here's the thing.
Talked big about that. Talked big about how he was going to make the FBI headquarters a mausoleum. He talked big about how it's outrageous that they use the government aircraft for personal trips, all of which he is now doing and abusing, even worse than Ray did.
Cougar 1985 says, when will it end with all the lawfare that the Trump administration has had to endure? What will be the deciding factor in ending all of the time, effort, and cost to stop the lower courts from President Trump exercising his executive and presidential powers? If the lower courts can tie up a president from exercising his powers, what is there stopping any future Republican president from being harassed in the same way? Nothing. Gray one. Okay, I'm gonna miss this joke. Gray, what law made American citizens subject to police lawful orders like producing ID at any time on demand, whether a crime occurred or not? Tawny O'Haley, definitely a new name that I haven't seen, I think. I'm wondering why all of a sudden I have clogged arteries when 5 years ago when I saw a cardiologist, he said that my arteries were super clear. Also, no one in my immediate family, both sides of my parent families, have ever had cardiovascular problems. If that's the case, it's terrible. I'll get to the rest of these in a bit. And Robert, let's do a couple more, and then we're going to head on over to vivabarneslaw.locals.com for the after party. The teacher that got shot through the arm into the chest, young 20, I think she was youngish, 27?
By a 6-year-old kid.
By a 6-year-old kid who came to school with a gun, who I forget how exactly they knew that the kid might have been armed because he took his mom's gun and he was feeling violent that day. No warnings, no protections, no action on that kid. He pulls out the gun, shoots the teacher once. It goes through her hand into her chest, collapses a lung. And she was just awarded $10 million because of the negligence of the school for not acting on the known potential risk of a 6-year-old showing up to school with his mother's gun, popping one off on the teacher.
Yeah, and there was the assistant principal was warned about this kid, was warned about his attitude and his behaviors that day, was warned he was about to do something violent, was warned he likely had a gun, and she refused to do anything. She refused to detain him. She refused to search him. She refused to expel him. Refused to do anything. And then he gets up with the teacher and shoots him. And why? I suspect because of the politics of who the kid was.
Because the kid was black.
The kid was of a group that is perceived to be protected. They'll put it that way.
Okay, I'm fairly because
a teacher who didn't want to take. Meaning, if this had been a different, if he'd fit a different demographic, I've no doubt they would.
I'm not trying to be glib, and I'm certainly not. I mean, it was the teacher. If I'm not mistaken, the teacher was white. The kid, I believe, was black.
That's my understanding. Yes.
And the mother. I mean, they knew that there was a risk that the kid had somehow gotten the mother's gun. And they didn't want. I mean, it's like it's.
They thought he was packing that day. They're like, detain him, search him, and the assistant principal said, "No, I'm not going to do it."
It's out. Did the mother get charged in that for? Did she not get charged?
I don't know. I don't know what happened on the criminal.
I think I remember there being some element of criminal negligence in terms of how the 6-year-old got the gun and took it to school.
Almost got to be honest with you. 6-year-old? I mean,
No, it's and it's loaded. I mean, the kid's not loading that gun. It's okay, but then people are going to say like a non-loaded gun is basically useless. Okay, so that was she got $10 million. School's going to pay it. They have insurance. I mean, she's going to get her compensation.
Yeah.
Okay, good. I see.
They're have to write that $10 million check.
She's got lifelong injuries in addition to psychological trauma. What is let's do obviously this one is will be the last one. Then we head over to Viva Barnes Law. Robert Bensouf. I saw your memorandum. I know. I mean, it's not new to me. The arguments are not new to me. It's enraging when you read through that what they did to Bensouf, and the amount of time that they've locked him up for criminal harassment because of texting with his own kid who was texting him. You want to do the rundown? Give us the practice your oral arguments before you get up before the court.
So Kurt Bensouf, ordinary everyday guy. His only criminal conviction had been some minor marijuana stuff, like a decade or so before, when marijuana was still illegal in the state, and it no longer is. Carpenter, preacher, political activist. COVID comes along, and he gets concerned about what's happening. And the mask mandates, the coming vaccine mandates.
This is
he voices
in King County. Sorry, I have to highlight that.
Seattle, Washington.
Seattle, Washington. So everybody appreciates. Okay.
So voices objection, and he gets all of a sudden a cascade of legal harassment by a wide range of rogue actors and institutional influence, whether it's certain grocery stores that didn't want him to be able to protest their illegal policies concerning mask mandates and the like. The getting him arrested on bogus grounds. In the middle of all this, his significant other, relatively lifelong partner, that was the mother of his son, gets into a love affair with a lesbian, and they're both in the prostitution business, and he gets concerned about aspects of what they're doing lifestyle-wise and impacting his young teenage son. But his biggest concern is whether his son is going to be forced to take the COVID vaccine. And he doesn't believe the vaccine is safe and effective, and he wants to make sure his son, it's up to his son to make that decision, but he wants to make sure it's an informed decision. She promises to do that. Behind his back, the school hides the fact that he's getting vaccinated from him as the parent. Not only that, blocks him from being on campus, excludes him from being able to even know what's going on with any of his son's activities. The new lesbian lovers run off, take the son with them on their trips, business trips. You guess what kind of business that is. He's concerned about that as well, and secretly get him COVID vaccinated, even though she had promised the mother that would never happen without his involvement and consent. So he voices greater concern about this. She goes to court, tries to create this whole abuse story that doesn't hold water upon any scrutiny, and it gets rejected. So then she goes through another court process instead and gets that court to issue wild rulings that basically the guardian ad litem comes into the process, and the guardian ad litem, a court appointee, is an ideological doctrinaire there to use the power of the state to impose trans ideology, to impose COVID ideology, to impose other leftist ideology, or at the risk of you losing access to your child. He's ultimately, because he shows like Matt Walsh's What's a Woman to his son, things like that, he is prohibited from seeing his son, talking to his son, having any interaction with his son. His entire fundamental rights to parenthood are stripped from him because he objects to this. They also try to take away his house, take away his car, they try to take away everything the man's got. And he tries to fight it every which way he can, pro se, because he has limited access to resources. And it's a massive litigation fight. And the court system decides to start punishing him for being pro se. Taking, banning his ability to bring suit, banning his ability to serve the suit, etc. And during this time period, because he tried to serve them with legal papers to assert his rights and privileges as he was constitutionally entitled and legally obligated to do, they bring 2 criminal charges against him and claim serving legal process to try to assert his constitutional rights to parenthood is actually felony stalking. And him complaining to the girlfriend who had stolen his car and his son about what was going on, they decided to call harassment. So we go to trial. The trial is a joke. The judge had been ordered recused by law. Judge refused to recuse themselves. Then at trial, there were jurors who believed that it should be a crime, basically, to oppose forced vaccinations for children. and that anybody who doesn't take the COVID vaccine should have been prohibited from attending school. So I moved to, as my peremptory strike entitled me to, remove that juror. The judge said, you can't. We have to have a We Are the World diversity, equity, inclusion jury. This a jury would fit a certain minority demographic, and you're not allowed to exercise your statutory and constitutional rights to strike this juror. At trial, didn't get any better. She excluded all evidence that was harmful to the state. That the evidence of their prostitution activities hidden, couldn't be mentioned in any way, shape, or form. A whole bunch of other critical evidence excluded from the case. He was stuck in solitary confinement throughout the trial. He was not allowed to participate meaningfully in his own defense. When I asked for a mere 2-day continuance to be able to prep with him one-on-one, the judge denied it. I was routinely refused direct access to him throughout most of the trial in a way that I could, effectively prepare the case. Meanwhile, when the government messed up, screwed up, didn't have a witness, didn't have evidence, judge would grant continuance after continuance after continuance. At trial, basically any objection made by the government sustained. Any objection made by the defense overruled. Even the judge threatened me with contempt charges because as part of that other separate private litigation, other people had served her legal papers. This is how insane this judge was. Then at trial, I wanted you're supposed to, under the statute and under the Constitution, you have a right to say that constitutionally protected activity cannot be a crime. It cannot be stalking. It cannot be harassment. This is written into the law itself. The judge refused to allow the jury to know that. Not only that, the judge instructed me that I would not say the word Constitution in my defense. In my argument, the word Constitution was banned in King County Courthouse. Then we go to the sentencing, and the judge issues the wackiest, craziest, most punitive sentence in the history of the state of Washington. She issues a maximum sentence for him to serve 11 years in state prison, 3 times longer than the typical rapist, more than 2 times longer than the typical child sex abuser gets in the state of Washington. So because Kurt Benchoof asserted his constitutional rights against COVID, asserted his constitutional rights to parenthood, asserted objection to the trans idolatry and ideology, he is serving 11 years in state prison based on the rogue actions of this rogue courthouse and rogue legal process. So we filed our appeal with the Washington Court of Appeals this past week.
Yeah, I mean, but you're not optimistic for the appeal.
We'll see. We'll see. I mean, the Washington Court of Appeals has previously said about every single thing this judge did is illegal. So are they going to completely ignore the law, completely bastardize it for this case? They would have to overturn their own precedent. And we'll see if the Washington Court of Appeals is so obsessed with this ideology, so obsessed with hating Kurt Benchoof, that they're willing to violate their own rules, their own principles, and their own precedents. We will see.
Let me read a few of the chats here. I brought something up here. I wanted to read these before we start heading over. How many cases do we have left, Robert?
2 cases left. We got the Osmongold named in a defamation lawsuit.
Oh yeah,
the famous streamer.
I have no idea.
And Meta and Snap and the big tech finally going to face a jury trial for hurting the mental health of our children.
It's going to be fascinating. We're going to talk about those over on the local side. Comey, along with Adam Schiff, cost us taxpayers $30 million just from the Mueller report. Well, the retort to that was that they got more than $30 million back in restitution from the Mueller report. So it was net positive. The total cost we'll never truly know. No, the cost was democracy. Looks like the shutdown may be coming to an end. I'm doing some digging. Yeah, that's what Fox is. That's what news is reporting. Let's go back over here real quick, and then we're going to go raid. We'll pick someone good to raid. How do you define what it means to regulate importations? Does that include taxation?
Well, and that's part of the argument. The issue is that the word tariff is specifically used. So generally speaking, even if regulation is de facto taxation, when it is a tariff has always been recognized as taxation constitutionally. And that's what changes the legal analysis on the tariff issue.
I'm just going to send this. All right, now another one. Where did I lose my screen? What screen am I on? We're on this. How did I get down here? Oh, that's on Viva Born's Law. That's where I want to go. I want to go to the side because it's scrolled all the way to that now. Oh, gosh. Most civilizations only last 250 years. America is at 349 years old. It's pretty damn good. Then we got Atrophy Cat. When are they going to file other charges against Comey? That's what I'm...
Correct. I mean, supposedly they're issuing subpoenas for Brennan and the rest. I hope we're going to see remedy. But by golly, if that's not coming out of the Southern District of Florida, they're going to run into the same jury and judicial nullification problems.
V&B, have you looked into this? 2 men arrested in Washington, D.C. for pretending to be federal operatives who gifted Secret Service agents with lavish handouts.
I'd briefly heard something about that, but I hadn't heard the further update.
I'll get to the second half of that. I'll look into that afterwards. Hey, Barnes, they tried to get you through a deadly infection. There are no coincidences, just connections. You were fighting against Big Pharma and got sick. I remember well, says Mandalici. Tequila Reposado says, Barnes, you just stated the truth. Trump has brought in at least 4 people whose job it is to defer or oppose progress. Full stop. Stop giving Trump a pass. There's not many.
I don't. I'm critical of them for these and for the deference given to them.
And there's not much you can do. Trump's the president now, so you can't. I mean, you can't throw out the baby with the bathwater. So it's the only choice.
What's nice is, I mean, people like Gail Slater, people like Harmeet Dillon, several of these people like Eldridge Colby, many of the people like Tulsi Gabbard, they've already gone through the Senate process, so he could put them into other cabinet positions. You know, he'd be a lot better off if Tulsi Gabbard. Now, the goal was for ODNI to consolidate. He should sign off on ODNI consolidating power and not having the FBI is a rogue agency at this point, and they need that. There's legislation afoot to shift that. Kash Patel should be called out for interfering with Joe Kent's ability to investigate whether there were foreign terror connections and particularly Antifa connections to the murder of Charlie Kirk.
Well,
Kash Patel is a joke. He's an embarrassment. And I'm going to keep hammering him until he just voluntarily steps down because he's that big of an embarrassment, that big of a joke. I'm going to rag him until the end of time because he lied to the American people. He misled them. He talked big. He was turned out all hat, no cattle. But we'll be talking about this and some of the other issues. What policies on Monday? What are the odds? A recap of the election with Richard Barris and his latest polling data. What happened this past Tuesday? What does that mean for what's coming over the next year? What solutions could Trump have? What are some of the traps for Trump? We'll get into all that with Richard Barris. What are the odds on Monday, 2 p.m. Eastern? Tuesday, 10 a.m. Eastern. We're going to cover the world and the globe with the Duran on the Duran.locals.com, the Duran on Rumble and YouTube and Odyssey and BitChute. So we'll be covering that there. On Wednesday, we'll be live with Daniel Davis, the Lieutenant Colonel. So we'll have that. Recommend people watch the Friday show that we did with Slavikman, Mr. Slavikman on YouTube, Slavikman. Has a very unique perspective on what's happening globally and in Russia especially. Being a Russian who grew up in America, who served in the U.S. military, then became involved in global geopolitics, tells stories in a great visual, visceral way. We just let him talk, and they're fascinating stories. Stories you're never going to forget. Like, why are the rats so big in Ukraine? And you figure it out, like, oh, that's horrifying.
Yeah.
So all that will be covered. And then we'll have bourbons throughout the week at Viva, BarnesLaw.locals.com.
Now, I saw Neuro was talking about raiding Eric John Pizza. We're going to raid Barry Cunningham because he's talking about Trump. The question is, there was another one who's talking about the end of the shutdown. But we're going to go raid Barry Cunningham and see if there you go. If you're going to get booted if I hit the raid, so opt out. We're going to talk for a few more seconds here, but let's go do that raid. I will be live throughout the week as usual. I'm trying to think if there's anything special. I'm not traveling for a while, so it's going to be good. And I'm going to cover a lot of stuff. So
I was in New Orleans.
I went to Bourbon Street, Robert, and I went to the French Quarter. The buildings were very nice. It was like being in Paris meets New York City meets Las Vegas meets Sodom and Gomorrah. So it was when I saw the homeless person walking around with a machete that I was like, I'm going to get to the airport a couple hours early and make a vlog when I get there, which I did. No, seriously, the buildings were beautiful. But it looks like Montreal. It looks like kind of like.
Did you get some beignets?
I got some beignets. They're delicious. The food is objectively delicious. The homelessness is an epidemic out there. The drunkenness. I was at Bourbon Street at 9:30 in the morning, and it looked like what I imagined Vegas looked like in 1950. I can understand the allure for some. I talked with a barista at a coffee shop, and she's like, I want to get the hell out of here because this place gets worse and worse year over year. The tourists are awful. And I'm like, yeah, when your tourists are coming to get drunk, debauchery, strip clubs and whatever, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. You're attracting the types of tourists that are probably the most awful to deal with. But it was beautiful. I walked the water and I got what I needed out of it. The food was delicious. So now let's go hit up. I'm gonna hit and send on the raid. Bada bing, bada boom. Confirm raid. Barry Cunningham. Go let him know from whence you came and show some love. And we are going to do something here. Well, here, let me just do 3 more. Oh, the Comey tube chats is what I wanted to get to. Let me see if I can just get a few of these before we head over. I go here, share screen, and I think I can go like this, share, deal reached, and the shutdown. I'm not going to be able to do this effectively. Okay, forget it. Well, I'm just going to read them with the names for a few of them because I can't seem to share a screen. So the shutdown's over. We got Mr. Rich Lowpitch says, but Robert, Bernie Sanders told me bread lines were a good thing. Wait, bread line, that's a good thing. You got people waiting for food. $42 million people on SNAP is a problem, not something to say, well, we can't, admittedly, you can't cut them all off for no good reason, and you can't cut them all off at one time. But that's a sign of a failing government, not a sign of a successful one. 42 million. Super Buff Shaft says, Viva, let's start, give, send, go. I got that one. The Trump can do no wrong are so annoying, says Stephen Hightower. That was over on ComeyTube. DOS Flex 3890 says, comparing the Canadian government to Nazis is completely unjustified. I thought they were being serious. Then I saw where it's going. The latter, the Nazis, actually advocated for animal rights. The rhyming between modern day Canada and Nazi era Germany it rhymes too much. It's a great limerick. Viva equals fat 199 from your Barmy. I don't even know what that means. What's the Amish pic behind Robert? Oh, what's the Amish picture, Robert, behind you? That's
a portrait of when I met with a bunch of Amish farmers about a little more than a year ago, discussing all the things that are taking place, all the harassment of them, help mobilize and organize them to vote in 2024. And I'll be happy when they finally get the relief and remedy that they were promised by the Trump campaign. Still waiting on that. Now, there are some promising indicators that may be forthcoming, but I'll be really happy when we actually get it. Right, so I can go back to them and say we got that their efforts were not in vain.
And that was from Karl Marx is retarded. Thank you. Cameron Kidd says, new FBI Director Matt Gaetz. That would be great. And that's it. Now we're ending it, and we're going over to vivabarneslaw.locals.com for the after party. Make sure you subscribe, turn on notifications before heading out. And if you're coming over to Locals, that's where the party's at right now. Peace out, peeps and locals. Make sure I do this properly. Here